Episode 1. Stethoscope to Saving Lives, a journey into the world of medicine.
Professionally speaking, I would like to thank all of you for taking your time to come and watch episode 1, and I hope this is a journey that we can go through together. Professionally Speaking is a career podcast where we go into 8 episodes dissecting 8 different careers for you to learn and understand. I am your host, Rahan Ali Mohammed, and with me today I have a psychiatrist, a doctor, Dr. Imran Versi with me today. He is a doctor by profession, and I think a doctor is a profession that many people have a thought of getting into or are into right now. Dr. Imran, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Rehan. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. So I want to go into, like you. Who are you? What do you do? Your education.
How I identify as well, right? Yeah.
If you'd like to, yeah.
So my name is Imran, and I am a medical doctor by profession. So I was born and raised in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, and I studied at the medical university by the name of KCMC, which is in Moshi. And thereafter, I did my internship at the National Hospital of Tanzania, which is in Dar es Salaam, by the name of Muhimbili. And then currently doing my specialization in psychiatry at the University of Nairobi. So yeah, it's my first time coming to Kenya.
Okay, I hope Kenya has been nice to you.
Yeah, so far it's been nice.
Okay, that's good to hear. So how long did it take for you to become a doctor?
So a general practitioner, it took me 5 years. So certain countries do their undergraduates, their MBBS or their medical degree for 5 years, and some other places they do it for 6 years. For example, I was told University of Nairobi do it for 6 years, but outside in certain places in the UK, in India, in Tanzania, we do it for 5 years, and then the 1 year compulsory internship after the 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, so is there any sort of other education to become a GP?
So ideally, every country has its own laws. In Tanzania, you have to do your A level. So I did Cambridge. So I did my AS and A2, and majority of the medical universities require you to have done physics, chemistry, biology. So the PCB combination is a necessity. It's a prerequisite before joining the medical college.
And how you mentioned an undergraduation to get into medical school, do you have to maybe do an undergrad in chemistry or biology, or can it be anything?
Yeah, so once you do your ASA2 in physics, chemistry, biology, that A2 results of PCB is enough to get you into med school. So there's no other requirements.
And can anyone become a doctor?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you have good grades, because the competition for medical school is quite high. So sorry, I'm getting a phone call in the middle of of this podcast. Let me just put my phones on silence. I hope it's not an emergency.
No
It's not,
worries.
thankfully. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, anyone can become a doctor. I mean, it's many people have this fear that doctors are, they read too much. I mean, of course, the requirement of reading is there. The only difficulty with med school is that there's a lot of stuff to read. There's a lot of reading to be done in a very short period of time. So I remember when I finished my A2, because in AS A2, yeah, you have one book. Like for example, physics is one book, half of it for AS, half of it for A2. Same with biology, same with chemistry. And then when I got into med school and we were told that the anatomy textbook is like double the size of my physics textbook for 2 years, and there's an exam after 4 months. So it's not it's just the difficulty is that there's too much to read in a short period of time. So my first year was the most difficult year for me, first and last. First, because I was not used to having to read so much in a short period of time, but I learned from my seniors on the smart way of reading. They told me that there's stuff that you need to know, and these are the things that will be asked in the exam, etc. And videos really helped me. I mean, we have videos on YouTube, different channels like Osmosis, etc., which really helped me through my med school. So yeah, anyone can become a doctor. I mean, you just need to be able to study. You need to be able to take in that pressure of reading a lot in a short period of time.
So why did you become a doctor? I mean, there's so many other careers out there, engineer, pilot. So why a doctor?
Well, because stand-up comedy isn't very much wanted in Dar. Uh, no, but I've always, I mean, I remember when I was 2 years of age. Well, I don't remember, but my parents told me that I always used to, when we used to go to a toy shop, I always used to go for the, the plastic stethoscope, the plastic injection. And when I was young, I used to get very sick very often. And whenever I used to go to the doctor's office, I used to see that doctors are very much respected. Whenever a doctor passes by in the community, maybe in a mosque setting or in any gathering, uh, people usually refer to each other by their name, but the doctor is given that prestige, the respect. That, hi doc, welcome. And so I always liked that. But when I grew up, more than that, I also realized that it is something that I've always wanted to be. It's not like I wanted to be something else and then I got into medical school. No, I've never been interested in professional dancing or something like that. So medicine was the only option for me. There was no other option.
So you didn't have a backup plan?
To be honest, no, I did not have a backup plan. It was either medicine or okay. My second option was yeah, my second option was dentistry. I remember, but medicine was, I think, the only option. I put dentistry as number five. Yeah.
So are you happy being a doctor?
Yeah, of course I am. Of course, it comes with certain pros and cons, right? I mean, the pros are what I just mentioned, the value or the respect for a doctor. The money is not bad, although we are underpaid in East Africa. But I mean, the cons are when you start off as a junior doctor, you get a lot of night shifts, a lot of calls, and then when you go into residency, it decreases, and then when you become a specialist, of course, it weans off. So you have lesser time, lesser hours per day to work. So that's an advantage. In the beginning, it's a struggle, but then after that, it's not bad.
So you mentioned about pay, and that was going to be my next question. On average, how much do doctors make?
In Kenya or in Tanzania or both?
In global, we can just say global average.
Of course, UK, the US, Europe pays a lot. They pay insane amounts of money to medical doctors. When I say medical doctors, now I'm talking about general practitioners, right? A general practitioner's take-home salary in Tanzania, because it's a low-income country generally, a doctor would make anything between $800 to $1,000 take-home per month. In Kenya, it's higher because of the economy. In Kenya, looking at $1,500 for a general practitioner to start off as a starting salary. But of course, once you specialize, it's more. So, for example, once you become, let's say, a surgeon, any form of surgery, a bone specialist, an orthopedic surgeon, a gynecologist, or ophthalmologist, any field of surgery, when you take, you get your, of course, the pay is much more. It's double than the general practitioner salary, and on top of that, you even make per surgery as well. So yeah, the pay is not as much once you're done, but after you specialize, the pay is good.
So AI has grown a lot over the years, artificial intelligence. What's your view on it?
My view on AI. Did you get these questions from ChatGPT? No.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so
But
yeah.
a fun fact is, I got the name from ChatGPT. So professionally speaking, did come from
Oh, nice. That's
ChatGPT.
a very good question. So the question is, will AI take up the response or the job of doctors?
Oh, the question was, what's your
Oh, what's
view
my
on
view on
AI?
AI? Let me ask ChatGPT. No, my view on AI, I mean, the artificial intelligence tools and apps that have come up right now is insane. I mean, you can actually put somebody's photo in a video setting and you would think that it's that person. So it's really insane. However, I would be lying if I say I don't use apps like ChatGPT. I do use them occasionally, especially when it comes to writing emails. I think they are awesome when I have to write professional emails. For example, if I write my patient's reports, before attaching the reports, I have to write an email which is quite descriptive. And so I write it up and then I just ask ChatGPT to improve the grammar, and it really helps me out. However, I've tried not to use it very often because I noticed that the more I was using it, the more, I mean, the lazier I became. So I feel that when people start relying or depending on such AI tools, they stop reading, because then your vocabulary cannot improve anymore because you're too reliant, too dependent on such AI apps. So on one hand, I think they're really helpful, but on the other hand, I feel that their use should be limited.
So do you fear that AI could, become, a general practitioner in the future? Because, I mean, I'd seen a video where a robot was, doing surgery on a grape. So,
Hmm.
do you think it's possible that, in the next, 50,
Yeah.
100 years, we are going to have, medical doctors where they're going to be diagnosing us, giving us,
Hmm.
healthcare?
So, leaving the 50, 100 years apart, even now, there are certain applications where if you go and you write down your symptoms, say vomiting, nausea, fever, back pain, etc., the app will actually give you a list of possible diagnoses. And then the app will also give you a list of investigations to do. So it's there even now, whereby you could use it as a substitute. However, so there's two things. One is the general practitioner part. Many times in medical general practitioner settings, you have the doctor giving you a physical exam as well. Unfortunately, AI, as of now, I don't see it doing that, giving a patient a physical exam. But on the other hand, when it comes to my field, the field of psychiatry, because this is my field of specialization, I feel that that's an impossibility because, as you know, psychiatry combines a mixture, is a combination of a mixture of physical, psychological, behavioral, emotional symptoms. An AI will not be able to assess a mental health status of a person when the person is talking to them or ask the right questions. So you need that emotional part as well of somebody who is with you physically to be able to assess your mental state. So within the field of psychiatry, I don't see that happening, but with general medicine there's a possibility to some extent, but not entirely.
Okay, so is the career competitive? I mean, right now you can go to a hospital and you have all these different doctors there. So is it competitive to get into and to stay into?
So fortunately for me, psychiatrists are very, very few in East Africa. If you look at the statistics, you'll find that psychiatrists are one of the medical specialization fields that we have very, very few psychiatrists all over. And even globally, if you look at the specialty, for example, child specialists, pediatricians, or internal medicine specialists, physicians, or surgeons, or gynecologists, they're quite high in number. Although in our countries, in African countries, we obviously do not meet the requirement of the WHO for the ratio of a number of patients to doctors. The doctors are very few. I don't know about outside, but in our countries, they're very few. Psychiatrists are really, really rare. And you see there are many hospitals that have many specialists, but you won't find many psychiatrists in that setting. So in that case, I'm fortunate. And speaking of general doctors as well, we have a lack of medical doctors in our countries, especially in East Africa. Of course, we do. So the reason that maybe you find that there might be many doctors. See, the thing is, many doctors opt to go for these big hospitals, right? The likes of Aga Khan, or here we have MP Shah, in Dar we have Aga Khan as well. The reason that they opt to go for these hospitals is because of the pay. It's quite good, and the services you get. However, apart from those hospitals, if you go to government hospitals, you will find that there are like probably so many patients and there's one doctor. And there's a huge line of patients waiting for one doctor. So, of course, there is a lack of doctors, generally speaking.
So is there space for more people in, my generation, a few generations before me, and coming generations to become doctors?
Of course, there is, especially in our countries. Like I said, there is a big gap when it comes to the requirement of doctors. The gap is too big, and I mean, the more the doctors, the more patients will get catered for.
So do you see that as an issue now, like, in Kenya, in Africa? Do you see that there's an issue where we are facing, you know, more patients and less doctors?
Yeah, of course. I remember I went once to a government hospital in Dar, and there were like 400 patients waiting, and the doctor hadn't arrived yet. And so I asked the head nurse at the triage, "Is there another doctor?" She said, "No, there's just one today. For the whole day, there's just one doctor doing a 24-hour shift. There's like 400, 500 patients waiting with their insurance cards waiting for the doctor." So of course, the reason is because we tend to rush to these big hospitals. We forget that um, Africa doesn't just have three hospitals. It has many, many more. And in those hospitals, you'll find that doctors are not there. So of course, there's a need for medical specialists.
So what solution would you give to this kind of problem?
Well, the solution would be to have more doctors, to increase the pay for medical doctors. Many doctors do not like going to work in such hospitals where there's actually a need for doctors because of the pay and because of the number of hours they are made to work. Instead of 8-hour shifts, they're made to work 20-hour shifts. And no one would prefer to go to such a setting. So I think by increasing opportunities for medical students, by increasing grants or loans, um, by increasing the pay scale for pay grade for doctors, by decreasing the number of hours that they work, a conducive environment generally for doctors, I think many more would pursue this field.
Okay, so I want to move on to the last question for today's episode. What's one piece of advice you would give someone thinking of thinking of becoming a doctor?
So, one piece of just one. Can I give two or three? No, one is okay.
You can,
Because I've got a brain freeze now. One advice that I would give. So my cousin wants to become a doctor now. He's just finished A2, Form 6. We say Form 6. I don't know. Do you guys have Form 6 here as well? So we have form systems.
I no, I think,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah, even we
okay.
do
So
here.
basically Form 6 or A2, right?
Yeah.
Before starting medicine, and we had a chat, and I told him that you have your 2-month holiday now. Sleep as much as you can, eat as much as you can, gain weight, no problem. Because once you start, it's not like it's you when you start medicine. Many people think once I start medicine, once I become a doctor, once I study medicine to become a doctor, I won't have time for anything else, which is false. I mean, when we were studying as well, we had time for football. We had time. I mean, it doesn't show now. I play sports, but I used to. So you do have time, of course. It's just that you need to set an hour or an hour and a half every day so that you can study. Because it's impossible for you to follow the same route that we usually follow in school, which is I'll study a week before exams. It is impossible to do that for med school. I mean, it has to be a continuous process, because end of the day, what you are studying is you are studying to save lives. And so it is important for medical students to set a timetable. That timetable is extremely, extremely important. I remember when I was in school, I used to wake up whatever time I want. I used to bunk classes the way I want, come back, sleep, play FIFA, go to sleep again. But with med school, there I had to sit down and say this is becoming too much, because when I looked at the timetable, I'm like, I have to study these many pages, and in a month I have my exam. It's impossible for me to say I'll do it later or procrastinate. So one advice I would give medical students is it's not impossible. It's very much doable. If it was impossible, we wouldn't have hundreds of doctors graduating every year. So if they can do it, anyone can do it. You don't need to have a baseline IQ or say this much to become a doctor. No, but having a timetable, having a set timetable daily, really helps for you to pass properly and to become a good general practitioner. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Imran, for taking some time out of your
Not
night
sometime, but
to
so
do
much
this.
time.
I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. No, thank you. I really appreciate it. To the viewers, do stay tuned for episode 2. It will be coming out soon. Follow us on our socials, Instagram and YouTube at Professionally Speaking. From me and Dr. Imran, we are out. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and we hope to see you soon.
Episode 2. Crafting Tomorrow, Designing a Career of Innovation.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Professionally Speaking. Once again, I'm your host Rahan Ali Muhammad, and I welcome you back to episode 2. And I hope we can, go on this journey and continue it. I hope you enjoyed episode 1 with Dr. Imran. I really appreciate him for coming out, taking some time out of his day to do it. Also very sorry about the audio quality. I hope it's a lot better in this episode. If any, anything you want to tell me, do either comment it on below the video or do get in touch via Instagram or email. But without further ado, welcome to episode 2. With me today, I have Rezwan Ahmed, an engineer by profession, who's specifically an electrical engineer. Rezwan, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Rehan. Good. How are you? Happy to be here.
I'm good. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to do this. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Happy to be here.
All right. So let's get started. So, Rezwan, who are you? Who is Rezwan? What does he do?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So I'm a project development director at Cross Boundary Energy. Cross Boundary Energy is a renewable energy investment firm. We finance and develop renewable energy projects across Africa and Australia for commercial and industrial customers. So we do solar photovoltaic projects, so solar PV, wind projects as well, and battery energy storage projects for large commercial and industrial customers. And in my role, I oversee the commercial and technical development of these projects across Africa mainly.
Okay, so I want to go into sort of your engineer career. So, how long did it, take for you to become an engineer?
Yeah, sure. So I studied electrical engineering in Canada. I went to the University of Waterloo for my undergrad. I did electrical engineering, like I said. It took 5 years. The engineering program length varies from one country to another. It also varies from one university to another. So at the University of Waterloo, we had what's called a co-op program, which is where you have one term of school and then another term of an internship, and you do that for 5 years back to back. So you don't get much of a summer break, unfortunately, but after 5 years, if you go to Waterloo, you will have the opportunity to do 6 different internships, and you can choose to do that at 6 different companies or one company for all 6 internships, or however you'd like to set that up. Other universities in Canada have co-op programs as well, but in some cases those are optional. At Waterloo, it was a compulsory requirement as part of the electrical engineering program there. And other universities also have it structured in a different way. So they might do a co-op program or an internship program in the summer, from first year or from second year onwards. For us, our co-op programs, our co-op internships, they started straight from the first year all the way up to the final year. So we had 4 years of academic courses. But because we had this co-op program, the overall length of the program became 5 years. In the UK, for example, engineering programs tend to be 3 years for a bachelor's and 4 years for a master's. And then they have different types of internship programs as well that you could add on to that. So yeah, like I said, it varies by country, but this was what my program was.
So the program you did, was it an undergrad, a master's, or a PhD?
So my program was an undergrad. It's called Bachelor's of Applied Science, um, and again, the way that the degree is named varies from one country to another. So in Canada, usually undergraduate engineering degrees are given the degree Bachelor of Applied Science in whatever engineering specialty you're focusing on. So my degree is Bachelor of Applied Science in Electrical Engineering. Other degrees would have Bachelor of Applied Science, for example, in Mechanical Engineering, as an example. In other countries, the engineering degree sometimes is called a Bachelor's of Engineering. And in other countries as well, you might have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering. So the name varies, but basically that's what an engineering degree is from one country to the other.
So to become an engineer, do you need to do just an undergrad, or like, do you feel like if you did a master's, it would help you more than just doing an undergrad?
Yeah, it's a good question. So again, it depends on what you're trying to do with your degree. In Canada, the engineering profession is a regulated profession. So similar to how medicine and law are regulated professions, meaning you need a license to practice those professions. In certain countries, you need a license to practice engineering. So Canada is one of those countries. In order to become a licensed professional engineer, the minimum requirement is you need to have a bachelor's degree or an undergraduate degree in engineering, in any engineering field. That degree needs to be accredited by the Canadian Engineering Accreditation Board. And then you have to go through a series of exams as well as some experience requirements in order to qualify as a professional engineer, licensed to practice engineering in Canada. If you want to go into research, obviously, then you need further degrees, so masters, a PhD, and so on. So it depends on what field you want to specialize in and also what you'd like to be doing, because not everybody who gets an engineering degree does the same type of work. Engineering is quite a broad field, and people who go into studying engineering come out and do very different things. So it's not a one size fits all approach. It really depends on what you're looking to do with your career after you study engineering. That would guide what the next steps would be. In terms of a master's, it's a question that many people who study engineering in their undergrad ask. Do I need to get a master's to help me? And again, it depends on if you're interested in specializing in a particular area of your engineering field, then it could be beneficial to have a master's because you'll get more in-depth knowledge in that particular area that you're specializing in. But like I said earlier, in order to practice engineering as a professional engineer, the minimum requirement is a bachelor's degree or an undergrad degree.
So why did you become an engineer? There's so many other careers, doctors, pilots, lawyers. Why did you become an engineer?
Yeah, so I became an engineer for a number of reasons. One of the reasons was that I used to enjoy science a lot. So when I was in elementary school and high school, my favorite subjects were always the science subjects. So it's something I enjoyed, and I was also good at those subjects. And then I was also pretty good at math. And so the combination of science and math sort of led to a certain list of options in terms of careers. So for me, I was deciding between going into medicine or going into engineering. And the reason why I picked engineering was because I felt that it allowed me to have more options open. So if you go into engineering and you study engineering for your undergrad degree, that doesn't close off opportunities for you to do other things. In fact, engineering is usually considered a good foundation to go into a variety of different careers. So you have people who go and study engineering and become professional engineers and specialize in a particular field of engineering and do that for their career. You have other people who go into engineering for their undergrad and then choose to go into finance. And because of the quantitative aspects of your engineering program and the amount of math you do and the amount of really complicated math that you have to go through over the 4 or 5 years that you're studying, people in the finance industry find that very useful because you have that quantitative ability after having gone through that undergrad program, that you can easily transition into a finance type job or career. Other people choose to go into research in a variety of different fields. And then there's also engineers that go into business. So again, it's a good foundational degree for that. And lastly, I mentioned that I was debating between medicine and engineering. One of the reasons why I picked engineering was because in case I wanted to go into medicine later, I could use engineering as a prerequisite for that, because I was planning to go and study in Canada. And in Canada, in order to do medicine, you need to have an undergraduate degree in science first. And it can be any science degree, and engineering counts as a science degree. So basically, by doing my undergrad in engineering, I still had the option after I graduated to go and apply to medical school, and my degree would be recognized for that.
Looks like you had a lot of backup options.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's in life it's good to have options because you never know what's going to happen in the future, and so that's the way I was thinking about it. But also from my own interests, like you asked why I went into engineering. Not only was I interested in science and then things, but there's a reason why I specifically picked electrical engineering, and that's because I was always fascinated by electricity. I was fascinated by technology, electronics, power and energy systems. Those are things that I was always interested in reading about and learning about. And so naturally, I felt that if I had to pick a specialty within the engineering field, electrical was the one that stood out for me because it gave me the opportunity to learn more about those areas that I was interested in, and potentially to have a career in one of those areas.
So, are you happy being an engineer?
Yeah, I am. I think I found my undergraduate education quite valuable, and that experience of having gone through that, it wasn't easy. Engineering is not an easy degree program to go through. So, in some respects, it was like 5 years of torture, but ultimately you come out having built a whole host of different skills, including the softer skills like resilience and the ability to solve problems, not just academic problems, but life problems. And so I found that quite valuable in terms of the skills that it helped me to develop. And then when I graduated, I went into professional engineering. So I worked for an engineering consulting firm called Arup, and we were designing buildings and infrastructure projects all over the world. And I worked at Arup for over 4 years after I graduated. Ultimately, I became a professional engineer through that experience. And I found it quite rewarding because one of the things I enjoyed about being an engineer and working on designing buildings and infrastructure projects is that at the end of the day, all the work that you're doing, you get to see it in real life. You get to see something real being built from the work that you've put effort into. And it's always rewarding to see that happening. It's not just paperwork, or it's not just something you're sitting on a computer and doing for hours and hours a day, but ultimately you're getting to impact the design of something that will be built in real life. And not only that, but you'll actually end up impacting people's lives, because engineering is in everything that you see around you. the microphone and speaker system that you're using was designed by engineers. The computers that we're using were designed by engineers. The building that you're sitting in was designed by engineers. So in all aspects of life, engineering has some sort of impact or influence, and it's quite rewarding to see that the work that you do has an impact on people's lives.
So you mentioned about engineering having an impact on our lives. Like you said, the phone we're using, laptop, buildings, and all. That leads me to my next question. Do you fear that AI could take over your job in the future? Do you fear that AI will become the engineer? You have a robot, planning out schematics for building, building microphones, speakers, laptops.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think yeah, AI has a huge potential to change many different industries and many different careers. I think that there are certain aspects of the work that engineers do today that will definitely be impacted by AI. And because of that, the work that engineers do will change. Having said that, not all engineers do the same type of work. Engineering is a very broad field. There's many different specialties within engineering. The main specialties are electrical, mechanical, chemical, and civil. And then the rest of the specialties are usually a combination of those different ones, but those four would be the core ones. I think there's aspects within each of those specialties that will be impacted by AI, but I don't think that the role of the engineer will go away completely because of AI. In my view, engineering also has a human element to it. One of the things that is important as an engineer is that you have a duty to the public in terms of protecting safety. And sometimes when you're working on an engineering problem or a design, there's a human element that needs to be considered about how will the design impact people or impact people's lives. And I don't think currently that AI has the ability to take that into consideration because I think AI is operating within a certain set of rules. Ultimately, AI has been created by humans, and humans define what those parameters are within which that AI program would operate. So I think you still will need that human element to make those judgment calls when it comes to safety, when it comes to protecting human interests, and also, engineering problems tend to be complex. And yes, AI is great for data crunching and solving problems, certain types of complex problems. But I think that it's always important to have that human element involved in any design.
So, I want to move into the now. Sorry. Is the career competitive?
Yeah, engineering is a very competitive career. To get into an engineering program at any of the top engineering schools in the world, you need to have really good grades, and not only good grades, but good extracurriculars as well, because most good schools are looking for well-rounded individuals, and it's really competitive to get into any engineering program. Having said that, I think many programs are competitive. So it's not only engineering that's a competitive program to get into, but I'm speaking from the perspective of having gone through an undergraduate program in engineering. And usually there's a whole process of writing essays as part of your applications and things that is common across many of the degree programs that you apply for. But yeah, engineering tends to have quite a high requirement in terms of your grades and what they're expecting. And then to help to differentiate yourself, it always helps to have extracurriculars as well as a strong part of your application. And then after you graduate, the competition doesn't stop there, right? After you graduate, you're competing for jobs, and engineering is quite a competitive field from that perspective as well, because there's a lot of really smart people that are graduating with engineering degrees from different schools, and many of them are looking to apply to the same jobs, and so the job market is also competitive. But the good thing is engineering is a growing field. There's lots of technological advancement. There's lots of infrastructure advancement. There's lots of different aspects of the world economy that require engineers, and there's this demand, this constant demand for engineers. So I think as much as it's competitive, it's also a growing field. So there's opportunities, wherever you look in the world for engineers.
So would you stay in the career? Would you be an engineer maybe for the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky question. It's hard to answer that with a yes or no because it's not black or white. So basically, for me, I studied electrical engineering and I am a licensed professional electrical engineer. However, I'm not practicing engineering at the moment. The work that I do is not considered practicing engineering because I'm not working on designs, for example. The work that I do involves looking at renewable energy investments and helping to structure agreements that help those renewable energy projects come into fruition, and also overseeing the technical development of these renewable energy projects. But I'm not the person actually designing the solar plant or the wind farm, or putting together the design drawings and things like that. There's other engineers that do that. But having said that, the fact that I studied engineering and understand the fundamentals, and also the fact that I worked as an electrical engineer for a few years as part of my career, helps me to understand what's going on and understand what questions to ask. So, going forward in the future, I'll still be an engineer because I studied engineering. But what I might be doing in my day-to-day job may or may not be engineering. So I don't know if that answers the question, but hopefully it gives you a sense of, like, it's not a yes or no, but it's sort of there's different factors involved, and you can be a member of a profession without necessarily practicing that profession on a day-to-day basis, but you can still benefit from the knowledge that you've gained by either studying or working in that profession.
So do you think there is space for more people to join the career? I mean, I have friends that are, interested in becoming engineers. I know other people in my generation, maybe a few generations before me, and the coming generations. So do you think there's space for more engineers to come into the field?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier, engineering is a growing field. You look at technology today, smartphones and computers and so on. There's constant innovation that's happening, and the innovation is being done by engineers. And the people who bring the theory into real life are engineers. So, all of the big tech firms, Google, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and others, they, their foundation is built by engineers, basically. Like they hire, thousands of engineers to help them build the products and services that they offer. And there's more firms like that all around the world. And technology is quite a big part of our lives, and it'll continue to be a big part of our lives. And as long as that's the case, that means that there will continuously be a demand for engineers. Having said that, as well, like I said earlier, not all engineers are working in that field of technology. There's engineers that do other things. So, for example, buildings need to be built, and for the foreseeable future, we will have a demand for buildings of different types to be built. Residential buildings, commercial buildings, recreational buildings. All those types of projects require engineers for them. So you'll need civil engineers and mechanical engineers and electrical engineers and structural engineers to be involved in those buildings projects or infrastructure projects around the world. You have transportation projects that are coming up, like roads and bridges and public transit infrastructure needing to be built. All those areas require the involvement of engineers. You also have the pharmaceutical industry. Chemical engineers are involved in that space. You've got factories being built. The people who map out the processes for a manufacturing facility usually have some sort of an engineering background. So, wherever you look, I think there will be a huge demand for engineers going into the future.
So, the last question for today is, what's one piece of advice you would give someone thinking about becoming an engineer?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if there's one piece of advice I would give, but perhaps there's some general advice I would give. If you're considering going into engineering, I would say that it's a good field to go into. I am biased because I am an engineer, so I would only say good things about the profession. But I think it's quite a rewarding profession to go into. But the one thing to keep in mind is if you choose to study engineering in your undergrad, that doesn't mean you're locked into that one career path. So you should view it as an option that allows you to consider engineering as a profession, but you can also go and do something else completely different. And like I mentioned earlier, engineering is a good foundation to go into many different things. So if you're thinking about going into engineering, but you're not sure if you want to be an engineer after you graduate or you want to work as an engineer, that's completely fine. You know, many people who go into engineering don't end up becoming engineers as part of their careers or professional engineers. They go and do something else. So yeah, the one thing I would say is like don't be locked in. What I would say is to follow your passions. If you're interested in science and math and you enjoy those subjects, and also if you enjoy making a real world impact by using science and math, and you enjoy building things and you enjoy seeing theory being put into practice, or you enjoy solving problems because engineering is all about solving problems, then I would recommend that you consider engineering as a potential path. And then once you go into it, you'll learn new things. Other options will open up, and you'll be able to have a good foundation to work from, with an engineering degree. So that would be my sort of high level advice.
And also, like you mentioned, as an engineer, you can get into things like finance, medicine, all these other careers. So, I mean, it does look like a good career to bring you a foundation to, your future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good, like I said, good foundational program to go into because it equips you with those skills. The other thing I would say on this is like you know engineering is not only about the science and math, it's also about the problem solving. And what you get by going through an engineering program is the ability to look at any kind of problem and try and break it down into its different components and try and solve it. And like that, the frameworks of problem solving that you get by going through an engineering degree are helpful in different areas of life, not only in your career, but in other aspects as well. And so, those softer skills are also things that are quite valuable to have. The problem solving skills, the detail orientedness, the ability to know what questions to ask, so that sort of inquisitive nature, you really develop that as you go through an engineering program, because the program is quite intense, but after you come out of it, some of the skills that you're practicing by going through that program start to become second nature, and you can take them into different aspects of your life.
Thank you, Rezwan, for that interesting conversation. I know it went by like really fast, but I think I learned a lot about engineering. Will I become an engineer? Maybe not. I don't think my math grades are as good for that as I think they should be. But hopefully, this has helped someone, get a bit more insight into the engineering career. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your busy day to do this. I really appreciate it. To the
Yeah, no problem,
viewers,
Rehan. Really happy to be here, and I hope that the information I shared will be helpful to some people.
yeah, I hope so too. To the viewers, thank you very much for listening, taking some time to listen. I hope you did enjoy it. Do come back for next episode that should be coming out soon. From me and Rezwan, we are out. Rezwan, any last words?
No, I think that covered it. But all the best to anyone who's considering an engineering career. I think it's a rewarding career to go into, and go in without any fear. It's a really good career.
So do follow us. Thank you, Rezwan, once again for that. Do follow us on all our social media pages, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Instagram, at Professionally Speaking. Do follow us on that. From me and Rezwan, we're out. I hope you enjoyed. We hope to see you again soon.
Episode 3. Climbing the Ladder, A Businessman's Tale.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Professionally Speaking. My name is Rahan Ali Muhammad, your host, and I would like to welcome you to episode 3 of this podcast. Today with me, I have Ali Jawad Molu, a business owner of Solutions Africa based in Mombasa, Kenya. Their aim is to create solutions for different problems in Africa, specifically environment friendly. Good evening, Ali Jawad. How are you?
Good evening, Rehan. Thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So first, I'd like to thank you for you know coming out and doing this. Really appreciate it. So we're just going to
Not a
go over
problem.
around
My pleasure.
questions and we'll just get into it, have a good conversation. The viewers can sort of understand a bit more about starting up a business, what the difficulties are, how to get through it. So, first, can you sort of give an introduction about yourself? What did you do? What did you study?
So, born and raised in Mombasa, I studied I did my high school here in Mombasa, and then I went to the UK. I went to the University of Buckingham, small town in the UK, about 15-20 minutes from Milton Keynes. I did my undergraduate degree in business management, and then I did a master's in business administration, so an MBA. And yeah, I got back into Kenya and found an opportunity, found a gap in the market, and we tried to exploit it. And we opened up, as you mentioned, Solutions Africa. It's an electric mobility company, so we're focusing on electric tuk-tuks in the coastal region. For those of you watching, Rehan, yourself as well, you know how popular tuk-tuks are in the coastal region. Everywhere you go, left, right, center, behind you, you're going to see a tuk-tuk, whether it's red, green, blue, yellow, red. You're going to see tuk-tuks wherever you go. So we thought that, since the world is moving electric and everyone's implementing it, why not in Kenya? There's absolutely no issue in starting it up, and that's what we did. And it's been a year and a half now, approximately.
So, you mentioned about your sort of education on doing an undergraduation in business management and a master's in business administration. Is it a must to go to university to start a business?
No, I wouldn't say it's a must. I think if you have the right people around you, the right people guiding you, even if you do study at university and you're fresh out of university, you would still need assistance. Okay, maybe it would be very beneficial to go to university because the stuff you learn, especially along the way, can help you, as you start your business. But in terms of being a fresh graduate, I think experience is also very important. So it has its ups and downs, and we'll look into it, I'm sure, as we keep talking.
Yeah. So, how long did it take to become sort of a business owner? The education aspect of it.
So it took me about 3.5 years to finish both my undergraduate degree and my master's because I did it in a very short period of time. I also did a summer term in that's only it only happens with a few universities in the UK, and the University of Buckingham was one of them. So I was able to do more in a shorter period of time. Everyone was out, in summer, busy chilling on holiday. I said, let me get this done. Let me do things a bit quicker because time is limited, right? And if you're slow, then you might miss out on any opportunities. So that's what I was trying to avoid, and I thank God it went well.
So, you took around 3.5 years. Do you think if you spent maybe more time in your education, do you think it would have impacted you more?
Good question. No, I don't think it would because I already learned all the content. What I needed to do is to get on, on the ground and in the field, the real life sort of experiences, because a lot of what you learn at university is very important. It is, but it's also very different to what is actually happening. And another thing is, I was studying in the UK and I'm working here in Kenya. I started my thing up in Kenya, so two different, playgrounds. So a lot of adjusting, a lot of understanding. It took time, a lot of mistakes, you know, that really made me who I am today, or is shaping me to who I want to be.
So, what made you get into business? I mean, business, I think, is something that's very well known, not only in Kenya, around the world. Many people have started up their own businesses, continuing family businesses. But for you, what was that spark that made you say, I want to go and study business management?
I've always, as I've been growing up, I've always seen my dad, in the business field, and the family as well, all revolving around business. I've also seen how difficult some of the fields are, like medicine and getting into such sorts. Wasn't really my interest. I wasn't really interested in any of those fields. I just wanted to do business, because another thing is business is so wide and it really brings out a lot of opportunities. Instead of focusing on, let's say, for example, medicine is also wide, but somewhat limited, whereas business is wide. There's HR, there is accounting, and yeah, you would need to do a few extra modules for financials and stuff, but there is opportunity, when it's business. Uh, I mean, that's what I think, and yeah, like I said earlier, I've grown up seeing everyone around me in my family doing business, and there was a lot of opportunities for me. So I said, let me get into business.
So, do you think there's any other career apart from business that is as wide as business in terms of opportunities? And
I can't think of any, not really. Do you have anything in mind?
not really, as per se. I think even something like medicine can be even wide. You can be
It
a
can,
general
yeah.
practitioner, be a surgeon, a pediatrician, go into mental health.
Yeah.
So I think there's a
Correct,
lot.
correct. And then
I think every career has its differences.
agreed. And I might sound a bit critical on the other careers, but maybe it's just my passion that's talking.
Yeah. I feel passion is something that is the biggest thing you need in a career. I think that's one advice personally I would give to someone. If you don't have the passion, you wouldn't go far, you know?
Agreed, 100%.
So,
I mean, we see it. We see a lot of people whose parents push them into something they don't really want to do, you know. And then, I mean, I've personally seen at universities a lot of medicine students. I had a lot of medic friends. A lot of them were like, it's not really my thing. I really don't want to do it, but it's my parents. My dad's a GP and he really wants me to get into it as well. And they're not happy. And eventually they go through 4.5, 5 years, and on their last year, they're like, I'm sick of it, I'm tired. And that's 5 years down the drain, or not even then, even after graduating, that passion is not there and you're not able then to connect with your clients and your customers. So, like you said, I 100% agree with you. Passion is extremely, extremely important.
so speaking of passion, I mean, I've seen from the past couple of minutes I've been talking, I see your passion is very big for being a business owner or a businessman, as you could say. So, are you happy with your career?
I thank God, yes, I am. There's no other place I'd like
What,
to be.
okay. So,
Go
what
on.
makes it happy? What makes it something that every day you wake up, you're looking forward to going to work? What's that thing that makes you look forward?
So, Solutions Africa is not the only thing I'm doing. I'm also in the logistics industry, as that's the family business. So I'm trying to juggle a lot of things at once. I think my main role in the other company, Consubase Limited and Transfreight, that's a CFS and a freight forwarding company, is going out and closing deals, meeting new people, networking. The satisfaction you get and the drive that you have. I mean, not every deal goes through, not every deal works, but for those that do, the joy that you get in them is really fulfilling, you know. It's a very fulfilling job to me, and I really enjoy it, and I think that's what drives and pushes me into doing this every single day. Yeah, you do get your ups and downs, but overall, you know, there's a lot of learning, a lot of growth, and a lot of meeting of new people and everything. So yeah, I going back to your question, yeah, I would say that I'm happy to be where I am right now.
So, basically, meeting people and getting these contacts and connections is what makes you happy.
I wouldn't say just that. I just like the routine. I just like the way it's designed, you know. It's yeah, I mean it's overall it's a good place to be. I wouldn't say it's just that. I would just say that just the fulfillment and everything, you know, as when you close a deal or when things go well. And also the mistakes that you make, you look back and you're like, okay, I could have done things differently, but I wouldn't have been able to learn if I didn't go through that specific mistake, you know, and there are a lot of them that's happened before and they've not repeated, you know. So so yeah.
So you talked about sort of ups and downs. Do you think if someone wants to become a businessman or a businesswoman, do you think they would also go through a lot of ups and downs, make a lot of mistakes in that career?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be lucky not to if you have someone really close to you who can advise you on how to go around things. But I personally think like you're destined to make mistakes because that's the only way to grow. Yeah, having people around you will also push you and support you and give you that push. But yeah, I think it's one of the ways that I've grown.
So, I mean, in every career, there's something that is always, I think the community makes it a really taboo thing to talk about. The money you make, you know, is something that many communities say don't go and talk about the money you've made, you know, in your sort of field. Now, on average, not what you make, but on average, what is the pay like for being a businessman or a businesswoman?
I mean, I can disclose my figure. I make about $5 million a month. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I, maybe, hopefully one day, you know. But generally, I don't know. I think they would make, on average, an average businessman would make about $1,000 a month, which would be, okay, let's just say 150,000 shillings going up, you know, if it's a managerial position. So it can go up till, you know, I don't know, 600,000. And then there's CEO salary as well, which can go higher. But again, I'm in Mombasa, so I would say it's lower here compared to Nairobi, and I believe the cost of living in Nairobi is higher. So it depends, but according to me, I think a managerial position, an average starting point would be 120 to 150,000.
So you mentioned things like, cost of living. I know right now when we're recording this, there is currently protests going on for lowering the cost of living because of
Yeah,
how high things have been getting. But do you think it's like for the work you do, the amount of work you put in, the hours you do you think it's enough? Or is it high enough? Is it good enough? Is it not enough?
what the cost of living?
The salary of being a businessman or businesswoman.
I don't know. I understand why people are frustrated, but I think people also, you know, I'm not one to talk much about politics, but I think this is a worldwide problem. It's not only a Kenyan issue. You know, over the past couple of years, there are a lot of different factors that have really, you know, played a part into the current situation we're in. So yeah, I'm not one really to comment on politics, but yeah, things are tough, and if things are tough for the employees, what about the businesses? So it has to go both ways, right? People have to think both ways, and I know during COVID there were a lot of people who took salary cuts, you know, during COVID, and which was, you know, very good thing because it was either you take a salary cut or you're out, you know. So there was some sort of understanding, and generally it is a very tough period right now, but there's nothing we can do but just try our best and hope for the best, right?
Yeah, so you talked about sort of different factors, as made businesses go through times. I think over the past couple of years, Corona has impacted businesses widely.
Yeah.
Has Corona, from your understanding, impacted maybe businesses that you've seen around your area, around your surroundings?
Of course, cost of living has gone up. Imports have gone down. Well, thank God now they're slowly picking up. But now other factors are also coming in, like these protests and everything. So people are a bit afraid. The dollar rate has also gone really high, compared to the Kenyan shilling. So that also plays a part. It really was a tough time, and we're just hoping that it gets better now. You know, we need to really be together as one and not be divided like the way we're seeing right now in the country, because we've seen where that can take people and where that can take countries. But if we're together, if we have one sort of middle ground and understanding, then we can take this country back to where it was pre-corona.
So I want to move into the future, the present, the future, So as you've seen, and I'm sure as you know, as a young guy, you've seen AI grow a lot, artificial intelligence, things like ChatGPT coming out, making students work easier, making businesses work easier. A fun fact I'll give you this is Professionally Speaking's name actually came from ChatGPT.
Oh, I see it's clearly taking
AI,
over.
yeah, so AI has gotten a lot of popularity over the past couple of years, and I'm sure it is going to grow, in the next couple of years or the next couple of decades to come. What's your view on it? Do you think it helps? Do you think it's bad?
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I use AI myself personally. I mean, why hire someone to write you something when you can have AI do it for you? You have to think fast, you have to think smart, you have to save. I mean, if ChatGPT is something that's free, you're not dumb for using AI. You're just smart, I think. you know and a lot of people might disagree with me, and yeah, this can potentially affect a lot of people, when it comes to freelancing and jobs like writing marketing content and stuff like that. But it's where the world's moving. you know I don't think unemployment would really be affected, maybe a little bit. It's still too early, I think, in my opinion, to say. I've not really done a lot of research into AI to make a sort of judgment, but I use it. I think it's great. I still think there is some sort of human element that's needed, because you don't get 100% accuracy. And for those people who are looking for 100% accuracy, then getting someone, hiring a human would make more sense, right? Or you can mix and match and save on costs as well. Now think about it. You need a post written or an email written or something, and you need it written professionally. Uh, get ChatGPT to write it for you. Send it to hire someone to rephrase it for you and to ensure that it's done correctly. That way, you're saving on costs and you're spending 50% less, and asking someone to write to touch something up for you rather than asking them to do it from scratch. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, for you, you're looking at it from the aspect that, why maybe hire someone just to write an email, make it professional, grammar, and all. So, I mean, AI, people are saying is going to take over the world soon, and I mean, a big part of the world is our jobs, as maybe a student or, the person that teaches me is a teacher. So,
Yeah.
their job could be taken over by AI. As a businessman, do you think future businessmen and women will not be needed because AI is coming in, AI is growing? Do you fear that?
I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, we've seen it with robots. A couple of years ago, they said robots are going to take over. Yeah, I think a few places in China and stuff, like the factories, things have become automated, but there's only so much AI can do. I mean, what can it do for you? It can do a bit of your marketing. It can write you a couple of emails. It can it can it can give you pointers before you get into something, but a human element, a human being is needed, because without the deliverance through a human being, AI is not really, it doesn't make sense to use it, right? Because you need a human to deliver it. So no, I don't think AI would take over. It's just a bonus that is there to help people, but no, I don't think it would cause unemployment.
So do you think maybe like someone like myself could go and start up an entire business using AI?
No, you can do the coding bit, like the websites, the coding, the app building, all of that. That could possibly help you out and save costs. I think it'd make your business easier to start up in terms of that, but you would still need the manpower. I mean, okay, give me an example. What would you like to start up?
So maybe let's say, something like environmental airplanes, you're in the environmental business, an e-plane maybe, for example.
Any plane? I'd love to see that. No, you would still need humans, right? Who's going to build it for you? You're not going to get AI to build it for you. It'd probably help you out, and if you need a plan made or something, then in any different way, the AI model can do it for you. But again, like I said, you need the human deliverance to do it. Technical bits could come in through AI, but again, deliverance is the main thing. Now, unless you mix AI with robots, that would be something interesting. I haven't really thought of that. It just came across my mind now. But AI and robots linked together, then possibly unemployment.
So if we were to bring in AI and robots, do you fear that it could take over your career?
Not my career, no, but I would say manufacturing careers, right? People in the factory, like, I mean, we're seeing it now, though, right? Toyota, for example, when they assemble their in Japan and in China, wherever they do it, if you've looked up videos online, you see how everything is done accordingly. So that is robotics. Now, there might be AI already involved in that. So I'm sure people have lost their jobs because of automation, robotics, and stuff like that. But in my particular field, I don't think that it would really. I'm more of a guy on the ground speaking to people, selling. So I would not see a robot talk to a client and try and close a deal. But if it does, then I'm buying the robot and walking around with it everywhere.
Interesting. I mean, that's something I don't think I would hear someone say that if the robot could just do it, then you have an 8 a.m. meeting, you just send the robot for that.
Maybe 50 to 100 years from now.
Maybe,
If I'm
possibly.
lucky to live to 124, then maybe I'll see it.
Yeah. So, career, being a businessman or a businesswoman is, I've seen a lot of businesses open up, whether it's, in the food industry, the environmental industry, manufacturing industry. Do you think that to get into the career is quite competitive? Do you think it's quite hard to get into the career?
As in just a general career.
As in becoming a businessman or a businesswoman, do you think it's very hard? Do you think it's hard for someone like, let's say myself, to enter into the business career?
So do you mean being employed or starting your own thing?
We can say, let's say if I wanted to start my own thing. So do you think, like, you factor into things like education, things like starting it up, the pros and cons of that?
I think it really depends on what you want to do, right? If you see a gap in the market, then it's possibly easier to get in. If you see there is competition as well, it's also a good thing because you know that there is a market for it. So you could possibly get into it. Now, the main thing is education is important, okay, fine, but I wouldn't say it's the number one thing. I would say your soft skills, if I'm not mistaken, that's the right word. How well can you speak? How well can you think? Can you prioritize the right things? Can you manage things correctly? You know, I think that is very important. And then having the team around you, getting the specialized people. For example, the e-tuk-tuks, electric tuk-tuks I'm doing. Am I getting the right supplier? Am I getting the right engineers? Do I have the right salespeople? Those are the things that you need to look into. Yeah, it might be costly, but if you're starting your own thing up, you would need to take that into consideration. It is possible with lower investments. It is, and that just depends on how strong-minded you are and how positive and confident you are. That can also make a difference. I won't say money is the most important thing, but there are a lot of different factors. Like I mentioned. So it's not difficult. It is competitive. I would say that definitely. Everyone's trying to get into everything. Like from the time we got into electric tuk-tuks, 3 other companies have come in as soon as we got in, about a couple of months after. So they saw the gap as well, and they also tried to exploit it. So we basically opened the doors for them. But when we saw competition, we didn't get scared. We got happy actually, because we said we're going to spend less now on marketing. People are going to be more aware of these. Let the competition come in. We're happy. We're strong. We know what our company is. We have that sort of backing, and let them do the work for us. Why do we need to do the work? It's just like AI. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I
yeah,
get what you're saying. I mean, basically they market it, so
yeah,
that more people get aware for it. And I think that's, I mean, if you go back maybe around 100 years when cars were maybe just new, one person had to market that car. And as soon as multiple people got in, everyone knew what a car is. Today, everyone's using a
correct.
car to get around.
Yeah, of course. And a lot of
So,
my friends were telling me, sorry, a lot of my friends were telling me, Ali, now there's someone else coming, what are we gonna do? I said, relax. They're doing the work for us. Take it easy. It's fine. It's gonna be okay. And more people are gonna hear about us. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of business market that we're in.
so you're saying basically we should not be afraid of competition?
To an extent, depending on what you're doing. Uh, in terms of the logistics side, there is a lot of competition. Everyone's trying to slash rates, but I think what we focus on in our companies is the service delivered. So you can pay $200 for a service at another company and pay $250 with us, but you'd be rest assured that everything will go as planned, as mentioned. Yes, everything has the one-off ups and downs, but what is the after sales? What happened? How is the service compared to the other companies, and how do we compensate if something goes wrong compared to another company? So I would pay a bit more money to make sure that everything goes well versus paying $50 less and being unsure, or having that uneasy sort of feeling. So yeah.
So you speaking, I mean, we've talked about, going back and, how career and how being a businessman has been, there, I think, since ever since. Yeah. So in the future, I mean, you're a young guy, you still hopefully have a long time to live.
Yeah,
Would you stay in your career?
100%. I mean, you never know where life can take you. But like I said in the beginning, I don't see myself anywhere. I don't see myself being a dentist. I don't see myself being a cook, only when I need to cook for my wife at home. But uh, I don't see myself doing anything else. You know,
So why don't you see yourself doing anything else? Is it maybe
this
just because of passion? Is it because maybe
is
other
passion.
careers are harder than being a businessman?
That's a very good question. A lot of people say business is the easy way out, but I don't think so. I feel like it's for me. It's purely based on passion, right? I'm not passionate about being a doctor. I'm not passionate about being anything else. I was passionate at one point about being a pilot. Maybe that's something I could possibly do in the next 10 to 15 years as a side sort of hobby. But I don't see myself doing anything else. You know.
Interesting. I mean, some people might have a backup plan.
Yeah.
In case.
And if God forbid this doesn't go well, or if something or the other goes wrong, which I hope it doesn't. then I know that I've learned. I know I have the mindset. I know that business, like I said earlier, is very wide. There's a lot of other things that I could get into potentially, and you know, having a strong CV is also very important.
So, I mean, as time passes, I mean, of course, people like my generation are going to grow up. I'm sure the current generation, the current 18-year-olds are coming into, uni and wondering, what should I do? Is there space, for people to come and find a gap in the market and open up a business?
There will always be space. It's where you look for it. You have to think and you have to search. You have to do your research. You can't just come in today and say, I want to start electric buses. Like, dude, there's a way, there's research, there's a lot of things that you need to do. Think about it. 10 years ago, there was no electric tuk-tuk market. 10 years from now, we don't know what there's going to be. We just need to stay active. We need to keep looking, you know. So there's always going to be space. And not everyone's going to get into it, but people who work hard and who try their best can do it. People who can go the extra mile. And this is like a general thing overall. It doesn't really depend where you're working, but if you don't work hard, then you can't really expect to be anywhere unless you get lucky.
So, do you think that working hard is a skill that every single person needs to have if they want to get somewhere in life?
Of course, like unless you get lucky. But I don't think anyone gets anywhere without working hard. I'll give you an example. There's the whole Ronaldo Messi debate, and a lot of people say that Messi's a natural and he was born to play well, and Ronaldo's a hard worker and everything. I don't believe that. I think that both Messi and Ronaldo worked hard to where they are, right now. It's not only Ronaldo who worked hard; it's also Messi. And so a lot of the times when people say, "Oh yeah, Messi's a hard worker, Ronaldo's a hard worker, and Messi just was born naturally for it," that's not true in my opinion. I think everyone worked hard.
So, you're saying that maybe the top business owners, not even only business, I think top celebrities nowadays worked hard. For example, maybe you can say Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. Do you believe that they worked hard to get where they are today?
Of course, I mean, if you read the stories, for example, Jeff Bezos, you see where he started. I think he started in a small little, even Mark Zuckerberg, the way he started, I think a lot of 9 out of 10 people have started with very little and have worked extremely hard or have thought really uh, differently to everyone else to get to where they are now. Some of it may be luck. I mean, if you talk about celebrities, some celebrities just do silly shit and sorry, excuse my language, just do silly stuff and get famous, and some of us sillily, if that's a word, follow them and and give them more hype. But generally in the business field, yeah, I think nine out of 10 people have worked hard and thought really smart to get to where they are now.
So you have, I mean, a couple of years of experience, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people get into the business field. What's one piece of advice you would give someone thinking about entering your career?
Come in, the doors are open. Work hard, pay close attention to what you learn at university, because even 1 or 2 points that you learn out of the 1,000 other points that you learn can make a difference. I think it's an unlimited sort of environment. It requires a lot of hard work, it requires a lot of thinking, it requires a lot of strength, because there are a lot of mistakes that one's going to make. So if you have one bad day or a couple of bad days and make a few mistakes here and there, it's not the end. I would say it's just some sort of learning curve for you. You look back and you say, okay, I made this sort of mistake. How can I reflect? So you reflect and you ask yourself, what can I do better? No, I would say it's a beautiful place to be, business.
So I
And
just want to pick up
there's
as you.
no,
Sorry.
sorry, I just want to say there's no failure. So even if you do start your own company or you do start your own business, doesn't mean it's the end. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't mean it's the end. There's always another opportunity. You'll always find something, and you have to be passionate about it. If you have no passion, if you're thinking about surgery whilst you're doing business, then you're in the wrong field, you know, and it's never too late. Even and that's that's another thing. You can be 50, 60 years old and still get into the business field. You don't have to be 25, 22, 21. You can be any age.
So, you talked about something that I really liked, reflecting. Do you think in every career it's needed to reflect, or not even in a career, in your day to day life? Do you think that,
100%.
maybe
Of
before I go to sleep, I sit on my bed and reflect, maybe? Do you think that that's something that people really need to do?
course, because without reflection, there's not going to be any growth, right? You make a mistake today, you say something in a business meeting that, for example, that you thought was wrong. So you have to come back, not overthink, but reflect. Where can I improve? Where can I better myself? Because if you don't reflect, then where's the growth, right? So that I think is very important. I hope you reflect as well, you know.
I mean, I try to, on things that maybe may ponder over me. But
Yeah,
thank you, Alijod. That concludes today's episode. Thank you for coming on
no
and,
problem. I hope,
talking about your career.
yeah, I hope you got the answers that you're looking for. I wish you all the best, and I think what you're doing is great. All the best. Keep at it, and if you need any other assistance, I'm right here.
All right. Thank you, Alijod. Thank you, viewers, for watching, and we hope to see you soon. Alijod, any final words?
No, all the best. Again, thank you for having me, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, I hope the viewers picked something small maybe from our quick discussion. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, please subscribe, comment, like the video, and we are coming out with a new episode very soon. Thank you.
Yeah.
Episode 4. Destinations Unveiled, Navigating the World of a Travel Agent.
Let me see.
Hello and welcome to Professional Speaking. My name is Rahan Ali Muhammad, your host for this career show. With me today, I have a business owner, someone that was someone that started in Mombasa and moved to the capital hub of Kenya, a business market. With me today, I have the owner of R12 Africa. I know in last episode we did have a businessman on, but today we don't want to go into business. We want to go into what he is doing. So with me today, I have Rizwan Mauji, a travel agent of a travel agent and business owner. Welcome, Rizwan.
Hi, Rehan. How are you doing? Thank you for having me on
Good.
this.
How are you? Okay, so thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it. And we want to basically start off by getting to know you. Who are you? What are you doing in Kenya? What's your role as, travel agent?
Okay, so yeah, I've been in Kenya for quite some time. Born and bred here, and we've been in the tourism industry for a very long for a very long period of time. I grew up in the tourism industry. Let's put it that way. My family business also is in the tourism business. I moved to Nairobi 5 years ago, and I opened my own tour travel company called R12 Africa Limited. And yeah, I've been here in Nairobi for quite some time and enjoying Nairobi's weather, enjoying Nairobi's lifestyle. Nairobi has got a lot to offer.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. One question. What does R12 Africa stand for?
Right. So I've been really fascinated by this number plate concept in the UK. So in the UK, if you want to have a personalized plate, you got to have two numericals. And when I always wanted to have my car registered as R and I for one and two for Z. So that's where I thought, okay, let me get R12 Africa. And Africa, I'm in Africa, everybody wants to come to Africa. And why not? So I said, let's go for it. I got it registered. It was easy.
I mean, that's an interesting one. Normally, you hear, basically someone just thinks of something, puts two words together. Yeah, it's, a whole nother, from a whole nother continent, you can say. So, I want to go into your education. What did you study in university?
Right, so I studied business information systems and business information technology. When I also did my diploma in tourism, business management. So yeah, I did quite a few of degree. Courses, but my main the joint degree was business information and business information technology.
So, you mentioned about doing a diploma in tourism.
Right.
Is there a sort of, like, let's say, a whole course where someone can go and do their undergrad and their masters and their diploma in tourism only, or is it like have to
Yes.
be a joint course?
Yes, it's possible. It depends on what level you want to reach up to. So you can start off with the normal one is a certification, two is a diploma. The third step would be going to a college and doing a 6 months course where you get um, uh, a certification that you can go and get into hospitality. Further to that is then going into university where you do a 2 year or 3 year degree program. And then from there, I think it's way and beyond. It's up to you how much you want to achieve.
So you mentioned about how you studied the joint course and did a few other courses. How long did that take you to achieve it?
So I standard degree, university degree is about 3 years. And my diploma for tourism was for about 3 months.
Interesting. I mean, normally, someone like a doctor will take, 10 years just to finally start making money. So, I mean, for anyone that wants to go into sort of tourism, I mean, now it doesn't take so long.
No.
So, why did you become a travel agent? I mean, so many other careers out there. You could have maybe started a business up in something else.
Yeah, so like I said in the initial beginning of the podcast, that we've been in this tourism and travel industry for a very, very long time. My dad and and his brother formed a company, a tour travel company in Mombasa, and I grew up watching them. And whenever I used to meet up with a few uncles, friends, family, and they'd say, "Yeah, this is your lane. You should concentrate on this lane." And when I moved to Nairobi, I bumped into a lot of people, and they all said, "Yeah, you are Mauji's son. Yes, we know the family. So yeah, yeah, we will not hesitate to give you business." So wherever I went, for instance, I went once to Prime Bank, and the manager knew me, and he said, "Oh, you're Mauji's son. We need to go for a staff party. Can you give us a quotation for renting out a Costa?" So you see, one led to the other, and I got more confidence. I got more clientele.
So I want to go, I think something that a lot of maybe my generation and a few other generations ahead of me are saying is, when someone wants to go into a career, they also want to look at not only money, hours, they want to look at happiness. Are you happy as a sort of tourism company, as the owner of a tourism company? Are you happy with your job? Are you happy every day to wake up, to go, to work?
Yeah, I am, because this is a family heritage. I have to make sure the family name stays in the market. we still survive there, and we have a name. So in terms of happiness, yes, I enjoy traveling. I love discovering new places. Kenya has got so much to offer, and I don't think even there's need to go out. For instance, I have my friends. They say they were going to honeymoon to Maldives or Spain. Nothing against those countries, but it's just that if you're in Kenya, there's so much to discover. You see, if you want the beach, you can go to Watamu. You can go to Diani. In fact, South Coast was rated one of the top 10 beaches in one of the top 10 beaches. You've got safari. If there's so much to discover, you want to do hike, Kenya's got it. You want to go, like a desert safari. There's everything that Kenya's got to offer.
So I think whoever is coming into Kenya next, if you want to go a whole, I think country safari, you know who to contact. You can
Indeed,
find him on Instagram at R12 Africa.
correct. That's my Instagram handle.
Yeah. So I want to look at, your day-to-day life. What makes you, what's your, you're working a 9 to 5. What's your day like? From when you wake up to what by the time you get home, what do you do in that, couple of hours at work? What does your job look like?
I start my day off with prayers. Obviously, in the morning, I try to get up. I believe strongly in Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. club. I try to get up at 5 a.m. Get my prayer in, and then go to the gym to keep my mind set, and come back home, freshen up, and I'm back at the office. When I'm at the office, I try to see what I've got to achieve, what I've got to conquer, and the day gets really busy because there's so much to be doing. And in our what we offer is not only safaris, we also do car hire, we do airport transfers, we do safaris. So there's always something or the other happening. You have to make sure the logistics are in place, the cars are checked, the drivers are well conversed with the routes they are going to be taking. Pager boards have to be printed, so there's a lot of things happening. And it with this tourism industry also, it's very demanding. You've got to make sure that you are ahead of the game. So when you've got an airport transfer tomorrow, you have to be prepared, to make sure that everything is set in line, so for the client not to get any inconvenience.
So, we were talking about factors, just a couple of minutes ago about happiness and all. Another factor I believe that many people look at when getting into a career is money. Some people might get into a career just for the money. Some people might get into it for passion and then, find the money dragging with them. So, on average, as a tourism company, what's the pay like?
This is something where you can't set a bar or a label that, okay, I'm going to get this much amount of money. You see, it all depends on one, season; two, how aggressive you are; three, what agents you have; four, how's your marketing. There's a lot of factors involved to it. Who do you depend on? So I can't put a set amount that, okay, you're going to make $1 million every month, and so this is the industry to go into. I think every industry has its plus and minus. So it's again depends on what what you concentrate on. So if you're going to concentrate only on um, car hire, you're going to only concentrate on airport transfers, or you're going to do safaris only. So that's a different way to look at it. Then you can say, okay, this is what you're looking at. But for us, we're doing a lot of things in the transport industry, like I mentioned, safaris, airport transfers, car hire, and so forth. So there's no set amount.
Okay. So, I think I want to move into a bit of the future here. I mean,
Okay,
a couple of AI has grown, a
right.
lot over the past couple of years.
Yes.
What's your view on it? Are you pro AI? Are you not AI?
You want to elaborate how? What do you mean by AI
So
in our
artificial
sector?
intelligence,
Yes, I understand artificial.
ChatGPT, yeah. So do you believe in it? Do you think that it's a good tool, a bad tool?
Oh, I absolutely. Personally, if you tell me AI has been the best thing that has ever happened, I'm trying to be very optimistic and positive about it. It's made things easier, even when you have got your speeches to make, your presentations. You want to make things easier. But the only drawback is I understand that the world is having a challenge with is with the school children. If they're going to do their homework, are they going to use their thinking capacity to actually compile a composition? Because I understand with the AI, all you need to do is just type in your composition topic, and and your entire composition is done for you. So that's another topic of discussion with with the parents and teachers, and how it's going to influence. But in terms of AI, yes, I think it's made life easier. You want to find out something, if you want to achieve a goal, you just go on to AI and ask. Like I said, everything has its pros and cons. But yeah, I think AI has done wonders, and it's high time we moved on. We take advantage of technology, because I believe in technology as well.
I mean, it's a good view. I mean, it's going to take over the world. We need to embrace it.
Yes, yes, it has its pros and cons, and if it's controlled well or managed well, I think it's a beautiful thing. And I understand everybody's still, taking AI further and further, trying to discover. But all in all, I think, yeah, it's a good thing that's been out there.
I think personally, I believe that everything has its pros and cons.
Correct,
Once you take
correct.
it out to a certain limit, you can
Yes,
reach the cons. So,
indeed.
speaking of AI, do you fear that, someone in the future can start up a business or a tourism agency completely with AI?
Yeah, it's possible. You can use AI for tourism industry. You can, AI is such an amazing tool. Like I said, that it can do wonders for you. Anything you want to do related to the tourism, say you want to find out where's the best destination, what to pack for yourself when you're going for a tour or for a holiday. So yeah, I mean it's amazing. Even if you want to start up not only a tourism business, any business, just go on to AI and ask AI that I need to start this. What are the prerequisites? What do I have to do? So yes, I feel AI is wonderful.
Do you fear that AI could maybe take over your job in maybe not the near future, but sometime in the future? Do you fear that maybe there'll be R12 Africa, but Rizwan Mawji will be sitting at home, and AI will be doing all the work?
That would be fantastic if you got to see it from a positive point of view. You don't have to do much of work. That gives me more time to go to the gym, to work out, enjoy the leisure time as well. So, yeah, I mean, if it can do all my itineraries, it can do all my filing and all my accounting and all my speeches to the drivers and stuff, and like, why not? So, yeah, like I said, I believe in technology, and I embrace it wholeheartedly. In fact, I love technology. So yeah, let's see what AI can take us up to.
So I want to move a bit back into the present. Right now you're maybe one of you're a very known tourism agency in Nairobi. Is the career competitive? Do you see that your competitors, are they growing? Are they decreasing?
I think competitors, you have to look at it with a different eye, with a different point. I try not to look at it as competitors. I work with a lot of tour operators, and we have a pool. So at times, they may not have enough cars. They may need to subcontract, so they would come to us, and we would give them out. Or I may not have enough cars. I need to subcontract. So I try and work out in terms of trying to see them as competing as number of clientele or number of sales. I think that depends on you and your organization, how you do your sales, what you have to offer, what lengths you go out to. So I also believe that every tour operator has something different to offer. And like I said, this the tourism industry is so vast that you could be, say, concentrating, say, selling only Watamu because of the beach. So you target clients selling only Watamu beach. So you would have maybe target selling safaris only, or maybe you want to sell Masai Mara only. You don't want to sell the other national parks, or you want to do airport transfers only, you want to do car hire. So again, it depends on each and every individual who owns their touring company.
So let's say someone that is maybe 18, 19 wants to start up their business in the tourism agency. Do you think they'll find it sort of tough to get into it?
I'll say something, Rehan. What I would give an advice is that before anybody starts any business, I would highly recommend is go out there and get a job first, work in that industry. First, understand that industry. Is this industry right for you? Are you willing to go that extra mile? See what are the requirements for that industry. Then make up your mind. Just don't jump into a business, opening a business. Oh, okay, I'm quite fascinated with this travel industry and I love traveling, so I'm going to open a travel industry. It doesn't work like that. Um, you need to find out. Then you go and open your business. A lot of factors are involved in this. For instance, the financial capability. Are you strong enough? You may get a scenario where you get clients walking in and say, okay, I want to purchase tickets to go to Hollywood. Can you offer me a package? And say the package is $10,000, hypothetically speaking. Do you have the financial capability to pay the $10,000 upfront whilst your client is organizing or sending you the payment? Are you going to brush off all your clients that no, I need the money first? So these are the factors you need to consider. You need to have the knowledge, which is very important. You need to know what you're selling. You need to have the experience. You need to have been traveled. You need to have understanding what are the requirements. You need to understand the travel industry itself. So I would say don't rush. You never know. Maybe it's not your cup of tea, and maybe there's something else better in store for you. I'm not discouraging, or I'm not, I'm just trying to highlight that it's very, very essential to learn what you want to enter first, not to rush.
Interesting. I mean, normally some people have their mind set on something, they want to do it, and then, they find out that, maybe it's not for them.
Yeah, it's fine if you want to do it, but I would just say don't rush into it. You just need to make sure that you know it well. Don't plunge in fast, especially now with with this day and age. Everything is working differently. Before, you see, with the tourism and travel industry, you would literally have a shop. You would like, oh, I know that corner shop, the travel shop. You would go there, you'd walk into that, you'd pay hard cash, book your safari. No, those days are gone. So every time there is a change. That's why I said it's very important to understand the industry you're going. Not necessarily the tourism travel industry, any industry, for anyone who is watching and wants to learn or is embarking into a career time. Take your time. First, go work, get get a job, understand the industry. You may discover that, wow, traveling is it's just too chaotic, or it's too demanding, or wow, it's fun, it's interesting, I'm in for it. So yeah, you need to be very careful.
So you, as a maybe tourism agent or tourism company, would you maybe in the next 20 years, would we still find you running R12 Africa?
I'm going to try and make sure that I can run it by myself as much as I can because of the heritage name. So that's very important. Yeah, and I do want to make sure that we stay in the market and we are always there. But in terms of managing, it depends again. Like you said, you offered me AI, so let's see what AI has got to offer us. Yeah, we would love to stay in the market and continue supplying all our current existing client, many options and travel packages which are still out there. I have many clientele who still want to go out to different places. So I don't think, yeah, I would want to take a back seat.
Do you think maybe, for younger generations that maybe, have had experience, maybe have gotten a job, found that tourism is for them, do you think there's space in, the tourism field or the tourism group? Do you think there's space for more people to come and enter the field?
So tourism is very vast. You could in tourism you could be a tour operator, you could be a tour leader. See, for instance, you could be set, for example, in Malindi, which is the northern side of Mombasa. And if whenever you've got clients, you want to send them out to there, so the agents would look for you, and you would then take the clientele and show them what Malindi has got to offer. You make sure that they are welcomed well, their accommodation is there, and you make sure that their stay is entertaining. You have entertainment ready for them, and so forth. Again, and then you could be a tour driver guide, so you would be driving your tourists. So there are a lot of fields, sub-fields under the tourism industry. You could be even a chef for the in a hotel that entertains all tourists. So you want to make sure that every time you have a different cuisine for them. Times maybe you have, say, Chinese clients who come in. So you got to make sure something that is, you have the Chinese delicacy ready or the Indian delicacy ready. So there's a lot of fields in the tourism industry that you can look into. You know,
So generally, let's look at, the whole tourism industry. Do you think there's still space for people to join in, as chefs, tour guides? Do you think there's still space for people to come in and be part?
Yeah, every industry has got a lot of space. It depends on how you look at it. Yes, there is a lot of opportunity, not only here in Kenya, even outside Kenya. Um, and it depends on how you look at it. You want to, like I said initially, whether you want to provide car hire, you want to provide safaris, you want to be an inbound agent, you want to be an outbound agent, you want to be a tour leader, you want to be a driver guide. um, there's a lot of job vacancy in a lot of job departments. There's a lot of vacancy. I would say it depends now where you want to fit yourself into. Like I said, first, explore and then jump into it.
So I think the final question that we would have today is, what's one piece of advice you would give someone thinking about entering the tourism industry?
Wow, I think I almost gave it in the beginning or sometime in between. Like I said, just don't rush to get into the tourism industry. First, you explore it, and then you get into it. You must enjoy your field. So, if you're going to get into the tourism industry, make sure that you learn the industry well. And when you're selling it, sell it passionately. So, and make sure that you do not compromise on your quality. So, say if you're going to say that I'm going to give you a package worth $200, state clearly what you're going to offer and make sure that you give it in. And don't get carried away, with your competitors. Just focus on what you want to do, and yeah, the growth is up to you how aggressive you are or if you want to partner up with somebody. It's entirely up to you. So yeah, just be focused and make sure you know what you're doing.
All right, thank you, Rizwan, for coming on here. You can check him out on Instagram at R12Africa. He also has a YouTube channel, Rizwan Mauji, so you can also check him out there on all his trips. And if you are planning a trip to Kenya, then do check him out. And yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Any last words?
I would like to say once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity for coming on your podcast, and I'm wishing you all the best. And if any of these clients or friends of yours are watching and would like to come in for safari or airport transfer or car hire, please give me a shout, and we'll make sure that you're well taken care of.
So yeah, thank you very much. Do check out our Instagram page and YouTube. Please do give us a follow and subscribe to us. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed and you could pick up something from this. Once again, thank you, Rizwan. And from me and Rizwan, we're out.
Episode 5. Brushes and Beauty, the creative journey of makeup artists.
Hello and welcome to Professionally Speaking. My name is Rahan Ali Muhammad, your host for today. And today we want to dive into, I think, a passion that many women have, I think, from a young age. Being a makeup artist, I know a lot of women use makeup, and I think some people have always wanted to, do it on other people, make it a career. So with me today, I have Rupa Khatri, a makeup artist based in Nairobi, Kenya. And yeah, welcome, Rupa.
Hi, Rehan. Thanks for having me on here.
Yeah, no, thank you. So first, I just want to ask you to maybe like give an introduction about yourself, your education, what did you do, and then yeah, we can start from there.
Okay, so I've actually been a practicing hair and makeup artist in Nairobi for I think maybe the last 7 or so years. My educational background actually has absolutely nothing to do with makeup artistry. I actually have a degree in marketing and international business. And makeup artistry is just a passion, and I don't actually have any traditional qualification, so to speak, in the makeup scene. I am entirely self taught on that. So, yeah, that's a little bit about my educational background.
So, you mentioned that you don't have sort of maybe a degree, as maybe people would say, in makeup
Mhm.
artist. Is there, like, let's say, if someone wants to become a makeup artist today, is there maybe courses they can take, a university that maybe they can go to?
There's lots and lots and lots of available courses. There's very many options, but it's not exactly a requirement for this industry. Some of the best makeup artists that I know and the most talented are actually self-taught. So I think it's more of a passion and an art than something that you can actually learn. If you don't have it, you don't have it in you, and if you have it, you have it. I feel like it's one of those things.
So for you, you feel that, to become a makeup artist, you need to have passion. It's not something that can be taught. Right. So I want to move in basically towards like, how long did it take for you to be a self-taught sort of makeup artist?
I can't exactly give you an exact time frame, considering makeup has been something that I've been super passionate about, and I've always loved makeup and dressing up and everything from a very, very young age, probably from the time I was like 5 years old. And watching my mom get ready every day, and like I just sort of had that passion towards it from that age. And then as I grew up, I was always like, oh, I want to wear makeup. I want to wear makeup. And that's just sort of how it started. And even I can't exactly pinpoint a particular point where I was like, okay, I want to do this professionally, so I want to start preparing. It was sort of like an overnight decision for me, because I would often do my friends makeup if we're going out or something like that. And from there, suddenly one day I was just like, you know what, I'm actually really good at this. And I should actually pursue this and see where it goes. And you know what? Worked out well for me. So it was pretty much like an overnight decision for me.
So there's no sort of educational background, or basically you just like, I mean,
I would say
to
my
me,
education
I
for it started literally when I was 5, because I've been into it probably since the age of 5. So I started picking up little things, not realizing how much I was sort of, absorbing. And it was more of just like, oh, I just want to dress up and I just want to look a certain way and I want to do this and I want to do that. And then, eventually I just realized I know so much about it and I can actually apply it not only on myself, but on others.
so I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you have done courses on teaching other people how to, do makeup and all.
Mhm.
Generally, let's say from a beginner's level, how long would it take to maybe get to, maybe not your stage, but someone that can professionally do it?
So, for the courses that I personally teach, I actually teach more self application as compared to professional courses. But the professional courses that I do offer is literally just a week. So, it's a week. And then after that, you just have to practice. So I can only teach you for so long because there's only a certain amount of things that I can explain to you, after which you sort of have to learn a way to apply it yourself. And within a week you can cover that. A week, 2 weeks, depending on how quick or how slow you may learn. And then after that you just have to practice. If you're an absolute beginner, you would need at least a good 2 months of serious practice to be able to do a somewhat decent job.
So, I mean, let's say to put it on a timeline, you could say maybe around 6 months to a year,
3 to 6 months.
to
3 to 6 months
three to
of
six
good
months. All right.
practice is, I think, enough. If you're serious about it. If you're just going to, do it just as a by the way, or you're not serious about it, then even 2 years in, and you still will be going absolutely nowhere.
So I think what I'm getting from, what you're saying is you really need to be sort of focused and passionate about getting into it.
Exactly, because it's not a typical 9 to 5 where you're like, okay, I'm going to wake up at a certain time. At 9 o'clock, I'm at the office, and 5 o'clock, I'm out. It's not like that. It's early mornings, it's weekends, it's not only just the actual part where you're with your client. It's a lot of cleanup behind the scenes. It's a lot of rearranging your kit. It's a lot of making sure everything is a certain way behind the scenes before you get to your client. And it does take over a lot of your time. It takes over a lot of your life. So if you're not ready to like put that in, then it's not for you.
So I want to ask you, why did you become a makeup artist? I mean, there's so many other careers out there.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you can become a doctor, a pilot, whatever. But why makeup artist?
I think when I realized that there's actually quite a big, rather at that time, there was quite a big gap in the market, was around the time my sister got married. And we really struggled to find, a decent makeup artist at the time. And we came across a couple. And then during the actual event, we had a few issues here and there where timelines were not met, and my sister wasn't like as satisfied as she expected to be, or sort of. And then when I sort of saw the work that was being provided, I was like, you know what, like, I can't believe this is something that we're actually paying this money for, because I'm actually not qualified at this point and I can do a better job than this. And I think I sort of started thinking of it about it as, like, a potential profession when I saw that. So I was like, you know what, there's actually some potential here. And then after that, like, I would notice when I would do my friends' makeup and whatever, that I actually did a really good job. So I'm like, why am I not pursuing this? Because this is something that makes me so happy. And I can actually pursue it in a way that I can reach more people, and it can also be a profession.
So, I mean, you talked about, sort of, your sister's wedding and being good at it and friends. I wanted to ask, did you have maybe a plan before becoming a makeup artist? Because, I mean, in your education, you pursued in marketing. So, was maybe your plan before you found out that you're really good at makeup, to go and market somewhere for a company or something?
So, makeup artistry is not my full-time job. I do work with my family as well. So that was always something that I was going to do anyway. So that's sort of why I pursued the marketing and international business degree, because that's something that I did plan on applying at work, at the office, the traditional work, which I still do apply. So yeah,
So your degree still does help you till now.
it helps me to a certain extent because I qualified, I think, about a good 10 years ago. So, having graduated like 10 years ago, marketing 10 years ago, and marketing today, I mean, it's two very different things. So, some of the things that we learned may still apply slightly, but the fact of the matter is that marketing has changed so severely. The world has changed so much in the last 10 years that there's not a lot of that that can still apply in today's world. So, I feel like what I learn on the job is a lot more helpful than what I personally learned in a classroom.
I I mean it's your life is a whole story, like you started off going into marketing and then you ended up on becoming a makeup artist. So it's a really interesting sort of story.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, are you happy with your career? Are you happy being a makeup artist? Are you happy, spending time going to people's houses at events and all?
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely would say I'm happy for me because it's more of a passion than anything else. I find it very fulfilling. I feel like, when you work with a bride and at the end of the day, when they're so happy and you're sort of a part of everyone's special day. And I really enjoy that. Like, you meet so many amazing people, you make fantastic connections, you build friendships, relationships. And yeah, I personally really enjoy it. And when you work with nice people, the appreciation that they have for your work at the end of it is worth it for me more than anything else.
So I want to go into something that I think many people consider or may consider when getting into a career is pay. On average, what does makeup artists maybe around the globe or in Kenya get paid?
So this varies so severely from person to person. You have makeup artists here that will provide a service for, say, 2,000 shillings. You have others that will provide it for 6 or 7,000 shillings. Others that will provide it for 20,000. So it sort of depends on where you want to place yourself on the spectrum, what your sort of target market is, what sort of products you're using. The Kenyan market doesn't quite pay what I'd say the service is worth, especially like I'd say for myself, because my products are of fantastic quality, so naturally they're not cheap. My kit is huge, it's extensive. I mean, I don't think there's anything you can't find in it. Everything under the sun you will find in my kit. I will literally rock up to an appointment with 6 bags. So, sometimes I feel like it may not be financially, it doesn't always make sense financially in this part of the world. There's other parts of the world, like in the UK, you can charge up to, £500, £1,000. Some people even go up to £1,500 for a bridal makeup. Whereas here, you would sort of, be at around the 20,000 to 30,000 mark for bridal hair and makeup, which it may sound a lot when you hear it like this, but when you sort of take into account everything that you have spent to firstly be there, your fuel, your time, everything, at the end of the day, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a very financially lucrative profession at this point. Like, it's enough to sustain yourself, but it may not be enough to sustain a family, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're
That's
saying.
why most
I mean,
makeup artists around here you will find are all part-time makeup artists like myself. Like, it's more of a passion and a hobby for myself, and my main focus and my main career is my traditional 9 to 5, and this is more of a passion and a hobby, but still generates a decent income.
so you mentioned about, having another sort of job. Do you think that if someone, were to get into the makeup industry in maybe Kenya, for example, do you think they would also need to have another job to be maybe financially stable?
I think definitely you would need something else. The other thing also with makeup artistry is the fact that it is highly, highly seasonal. So, like around this time of year, it's super busy, which is why, I mean, it's 8 p.m., 8:30 rather, and I look like I'm ready to go to bed because I really am, because that's just what this time of year is like. It's crazy, it's hectic. You're working long days, you're just constantly busy. And then probably from around mid-September, you'll find your calendar is quite empty up until early November. So for that moment, you obviously need something else which is a lot more constant, so that you can sort of know that, okay, X amount is coming in, and you can't just be sitting around waiting that, oh, let's see if a booking comes in, because honestly, that's just it's not a nice place to be.
Yeah, and I think even the high cost of living has also
Exactly.
affected that. So, I mean, as we talk about basically, uh, what your how life is now being a makeup artist, I want to move a bit into the future. I mean, we all know about artificial intelligence, chat GPT, robots and all. Do you What's your view on it?
In this industry for the foreseeable future, I mean, I don't really think it plays too much of a part, because the service that we're providing is so personalized, and it's such a, it's a very one-on-one. You're interacting very closely with your client. So at this point, I don't see it being much of an issue. Maybe, in the further ahead future, possibly, I mean, maybe you can just hire a robot to do your makeup instead. But I think it's still a long way until it can be widely available enough and also affordable enough for people to choose that, as compared to this. And the human interaction that comes between your makeup artist and your bride on the day is also, it's also quite an important interaction, because you play more than just the person decking up the bride. You help calm them down, you put them in a better mood. If there's other little things that may come up, like sometimes you may even find yourself like helping the bride put on her shoe, because her outfit is so huge and there's no way she can bend to actually close her shoe. So you're there helping her put on her shoe. So I feel like that's something that, I mean, I don't think AI is going to be doing anytime soon.
So, I mean, do you fear that AI maybe could take your job in, in the future?
I mean, if it's like 20 years down the line, I probably don't even think I'll be doing this anymore. So I'm not worried about it.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, AI is going to take over the world, robots are going to come and do everything for us.
Hmm.
But I mean, makeup artists, what if maybe, they open up a salon where you just go, you walk in, sit in a chair, you just choose from your phone what you want, and then the robot just does it for you.
I just don't see that happening in the near future. And even if it happens, I don't see it being affordable enough for it to be widely available, especially not in this market for a very long time. And especially not in this part of the world for a long time.
So, I mean, many people have had that passion. I mean, you're one of them to become a makeup artist. So, when you were maybe joining, the field, is it competitive? Is it very hard to get into it?
So the point at which I got into this, which was a long time ago, there was a huge gap in the market, and what I was bringing to the market at that point, not a lot of people were. Now, a lot of people are. A lot of people obviously see that there's room in the market, and then they want to like jump right in. And as a result of that, it is a very saturated market. There is a lot of competition, but I feel like everyone has a personal touch to offer. Like we all like have our own little unique style, and a client will come to you based off of that, and they will like the uniqueness that you're offering, and they'll come for that. And they may like something someone else is offering, and they'll go to them for that. So I feel like as much as it is a very saturated market, it is a very competitive market today, but I feel like there's still room for everyone.
So, you mentioned, people having their own uniqueness. Is it like, maybe like let's say if you're called for a bridal makeup, Does this like happen where maybe you'll be called for the makeup and someone else will be called for the hair?
Yeah, yeah, that happens all the time.
So it's not something like where maybe you're only called for bridal for the makeup and the hair as per se.
No, no, it's entirely up to the client. If they want me to do both, I'm happy to. If they prefer somebody else doing the hair, that's perfectly fine, and I'll focus on makeup. I actually prefer focusing on just makeup. So I actually don't do hair only bookings, anyways, because hair is not my forte, makeup is. So yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about like 20 years down the line, you might not be in the career.
Mm-hmm.
Would you stay in the career, you know?
Probably not at that point. I may stay on in the form of a teacher. I may teach others. I may do the one off here and there. But I just don't think at that point it's something that I would be able to do because physically it's very, very taxing. It's very exhausting. You find yourself constantly tired physically as a result of it. And at this point my life is in a place where I have the luxury to be able to do this. I have the luxury to leave the house at like 6 in the morning, not worry about what's happening, come back whenever I finish my bookings, not have to worry about any other like domestic responsibilities, so to speak. But at that point in life maybe I'd have to worry about those things. And also physically I don't think I would be able to like keep this up because even at this point you'll find days where I'm like, oh my god, my back is really hurting. So I'm thinking 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line, I don't think my body can hack it any longer because it is very, very, very taxing.
So you mentioned about maybe like it being very tiring and draining. Do you think people, mothers, families that are, running families, do you think they are able to maybe, get into the field?
I know a lot of people who are mothers and still manage to do this, and I really, really admire because I don't know how. I don't know how they do it. They do it. They may not do it as often as I do or as much as I do. I know they're a lot more selective with their hours because of other commitments. But you know what? Like, I don't know how they do it. They do it. There's a few that do, and hats off to them.
So, and also you also mentioned that, you are able to leave at 6 a.m. in the
Mhm.
morning. As we know in Kenya, there are currently ongoing protests for high cost of living. Has that maybe affected you as a makeup artist, maybe going out to customers in terms of safety and all?
So I have had the odd one or two cancellation because of the current protests, but that's about it. Because mostly my work is more so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The weeks are not so busy, but also most of my clients are around Westlands, and my travel is not too much to them around Westlands, Parklands, so we can still manage. The one or two clients that have had to cancel have been clients that are like probably on Lavington sides or Hurlingham sides, and then they'd have to come across. So for safety they've actually cancelled, but it hasn't happened often, but it has happened. And yeah, hopefully things settle down soon, because if not, then it's probably bound to happen more. And also because makeup artistry, definitely qualifies as a luxury. If things keep going this way, then it is one of the things that people, I think, would cut back on before they would think of cutting back on other things, because it's far from a necessity. Having your makeup done is not a necessity.
So you mentioned about how, it's like a struggle and all, for people, canceling and all due to maybe living far and of course for safety concerns. Does maybe canceling and booking, really last minute, does that affect you as a makeup
Oh,
artist?
yeah, it definitely does. So, in a normal situation, I actually normally have a contract which has a cancellation policy, which states very clearly that if you cancel, your deposit is non refundable. And if you cancel last minute, then most certainly you're still going to be charged for the whole appointment, even though you're not really getting the service. But as a last minute cancellation, because I have blocked off that slot for you for a long time and declined that slot to a lot of other interested parties, then definitely, yeah, you're going to have to, like, you know, either lose your deposit or pay the full amount. But In a situation like where we've had the protests and someone's had to cancel, then I mean, it's just about being understanding, because it's nobody's fault. So over there you're just like, you know what, it is what it is. Then you still won't refund a deposit, but you will be able to consume that amount at a later date.
So you talked about cancellations. Does last minute bookings even affect you?
Last minute bookings coming in.
Yeah. So like let's say if someone maybe would, as per se, maybe want makeup for tomorrow,
um
does
I
that
don't
affect
usually
you?
do very last minute because of scheduling purposes. If I'm available and my day schedule at the office and stuff allows me to take them in last minute, then I'm happy to do so. But generally I do need at least a couple days notice, so I'm able to like plan my day accordingly, and that usually works out well because no one's event is going to just happen last minute. You know what I mean? They will at least know a little bit in advance that XYZ is happening and I may need a certain service for that.
So you also talked about having a contract that you and the clients maybe would go over and sign. Do other makeup artists have this
I
contract?
know a lot of people have now started doing that. I actually have a lot of friends in the industry that I have also encouraged to start doing this, because sometimes people, when there's not like a contract put into place and a deposit paid, people may sometimes it's misunderstanding, sometimes it's just a disregard to your time, and then they'll just cancel last minute because they're not losing anything. So now I think majority of the people in the industry do put into place some sort of a contract and deposit system.
So you mentioned, people, a big group of people in the industry. Now, you know, uh, teenagers maybe wanting to get into this field, being a makeup artist and all.
Mhm.
Do you think there's space for people to join?
Oh, definitely. There's always space in everything. There's always space. As long as you're willing to put in the work, then there's always space.
Okay, so the final question I think for today is, what's one piece of advice you would give someone that wants to enter the career, or that wants to become a makeup artist?
One piece of advice I would give them: only do it if you're ready to really put in the work, and do it if it brings you happiness. Don't do it for the money, because then you're going to be disappointed. Do it if it's something that you genuinely enjoy, and if it gives you that sense of fulfillment, then do it. Otherwise it's not for you, because it's not as rosy as it looks on Instagram. It's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing. I think that's counts for everywhere. I mean, Instagram is a place that everything can look so rosy and
Yeah.
all that, but in real life, it's a completely different image.
Yes.
So yeah, I think you've experienced that a lot. I think maybe some of your clients may have gone through fake makeup pages, getting scammed. And is that a problem in, the makeup artist
Not
industry?
exactly fake pages. Maybe people have experienced that as well. I'm not aware of that, but fake work in the sense, a, an artist has put up a picture that is so ridiculously edited that it's physically impossible to attain that level of perfection in reality, because it doesn't exist. So that's something that's happened to a lot of people, where they'll look at a picture and they'll be like, oh my god, I want to go there because it looks amazing or whatever. And then when they go, it's something completely different. And sometimes people actually will post pictures that are not their work as well. So I guess, yeah, that is just fake and misleading. So yeah, people have had that experience. And at least, when you're going to someone that's trusted, you know that that's not going to happen.
So have you faced maybe makeup artists maybe stealing your work and reposting it
Oh,
as
I've
theirs?
had makeup artists steal my work. I've had makeup artists claim they've been taught by me. I've had makeup artists entirely steal my style, steal my concepts, steal everything. Honestly, my creativity, I've seen it all. Because you know what? At the end of the day, if I'm gonna hide my work, then people aren't gonna get to see it. If I put my work out there, everyone can see it, and if everyone can see it, someone or the other is going to, steal. I've had other makeup artists even have me do their makeup just to see what I am doing, what I'm using, how I'm doing it. And obviously this was at the beginning of my career and I was very young and I didn't quite realize that that's what was happening. And then by the time I realized, it was way too late. And I can till today see in her work a reflection of my personal style and touch and everything. But you know what? It is what it is. Like I said, there's room for everyone.
All right, thank you, Rupa, so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
No problem.
Yeah, so you can just put her on make at makeup and me on Instagram. And thank you all for watching. I hope you picked up something, maybe learned something about the makeup artist industry. And yeah, thank you for watching. Please do subscribe and follow us on all our social media platforms. And yeah, thank you very much. See you soon.
Episode 6. Educator's Echo, Inside the Life of a Teacher.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Professionally Speaking. My name is Rohan Ali Muhammad, your host and career exploration guide. With me today, I have a very important person that has helped me a lot. My teacher, an English teacher actually, who's currently living in Colombia, South America, who's taught me English for my first year in primary school. With me today, I have Mr. Sami, yeah, who was a teacher in Nairobi, Kenya, but moved away. Mr. Sami, good evening. How are you?
Yeah. Well, I'd say good evening to you. It's good morning on my end. Yeah. How are you, Rehan? Nice to meet you. Thank you.
So, Mr. Sami, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it. So, I want to sort of dive in, already start. So how, how's it teaching? How's it being a teacher?
Well, being a teacher is pretty much an interesting career. Actually, I find it interesting because it's one of those things that I wouldn't really say I found myself into, but yeah, it was pretty much something like that. Just like probably most of you or most young guys today, I had parents who were totally focused in leading me into different career paths. I think at some point I explored medicine. At some point I explored law. At some point I thought about journalism. And then, well, somehow the world just conspired, and I found myself doing a course in education arts in English and literature. And that's how I found myself teaching. But then the thing is, as soon as I started doing it, then I kind of discovered probably it's actually the best thing for me because I have enjoyed it all along. All the opportunity to meet different, students with different personalities, individual differences, and the ability to just be able to teach them, influence them, and shape their future is just something that has been exciting for me. So I enjoy this experience, and I have seen massive growth as a teacher. Sometimes I sit back and reflect, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think I would have made a better doctor or I would have made a better lawyer. This is just for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go basically into your education. What did you study? How did it all get there? Is it like, right now as a student, you can be my teacher, and then, can I say like, oh, Mr. Sami taught me. Can I just go and teach other people?
Yeah. All right. That's an interesting question. Yeah. Just like I said, I think I grew up in an era where most of us did not think about being teachers. I remember ever being in class, and well, I can't remember any single time where I was in class with my classmates in high school, and anybody came and asked us how many here want to be teachers, and anyone raised their hand. That never happened. We had people coming to talk to us about careers, and all we had were like engineers, we had medics, we had pilots, and really teaching was not that one thing that anyone pretty much thought about. I mean, we were horrible students, so you causing trouble to teachers. So you wouldn't imagine being the teacher who's having to deal with all that stuff from students. But for me, after high school, in high school I was actually an A student, so I managed to get an A minus in my KCC, which is pretty much a grade that would have allowed me to do pretty much lots of courses. I could have done law, for example. I qualified for it, merited for it. I could have done nursing because I kind of harbored that ambition to be a medic in a way. But yeah, for some reason, when it came to subject selections, I was like, yeah, my top performing subjects were languages. That was English and Kiswahili. And I was like, yeah, this is something that I want to do something about. And most importantly, I was kind of very interested in drama and theater arts. And so when I was looking at my options of what I could study, I was thinking about what is it that would allow me to kind of take that line. And it was that very sneaky line because it's something that my parents then did not really understand what opportunities were in the field. So, in my process of research, I kind of noticed, okay, so there's this course, that is education arts in English and literature. And then when I look at the units being offered, rather the courses being offered, there's some units in theater and drama. That I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be very sneaky about it, but that's what I'm going to do. So I chose that, and that is how I ended up at University of Nairobi, studying Bachelor of Education Arts in English and Literature. Somewhere behind the scenes, I was really looking forward to the drama and theater courses, and that was my journey. I ended up majoring in literature, and then usually somewhere in between the course here in third year, you are required to do your teaching practice. That it's pretty much like internship here. So for me, that was a time I thought about looking for an international school, and it was a really huge gamble for me because I didn't know so much about international schools then. It's just something that I had about when I went to high school, to uni. I'm like, oh, so there are schools like these that exist somewhere in Kenya. I'm like, okay, then if that's the case, that's where I want to teach, And I looked around, looked for, several schools. I didn't get accepted in a lot of them, and then somehow things just came together at Nairobi Jeffrey Academy, and they took me for teaching practice. And to me, that was really a start of my teaching, well, I would say teaching career in international schools. And yeah, see where it got me.
Interesting. I mean, many people, I think many people in my generation, when we have career talks and all, we're asked who wants to become a teacher. Everyone's just like, you know,
Yeah,
and I think
and
that was the same. I think for
yeah,
most teachers, when they were also students, that they didn't think of being a teacher as a career path, you
yeah,
know.
totally. And I understand
So
why
how
students would
long did it
think
take
that.
for you, to do sort of your university and you were saying about where you are at Nairobi Joffrey Academy. How long
Mhm.
did that take you?
Well, so it took me 4 years at the university. The education course is, well, for 4 years for all subject areas. So basically, I was training to be a secondary teacher of English and literature. That's a 4 years course. And then in third year, we had this time that is called like long holidays. It's pretty much what you'd consider like a summer, because it though it strikes us from around what time was it? I think May, June. Yeah, May, June, July. That just around that time, that's when university students were being released for teaching practice, and that is in their third year of uni. And usually it was that way because following the previous local curriculum, the 844, that was around second term of the school academic calendar. So that's when you used to be released to go for a teaching practice. So actually, what happened for me is when my group was released for teaching practice, I did not go for teaching practice then because I already had set my mind for an international school. And what happens in most of the international schools is like around that time. I think it's probably third term. It's actually third term, and so most of the schools only have May and June, and then July they have to break for summer holidays. But then it's compulsory for us to cover 3 months of internship. So it was very difficult for me to get an opportunity at that time because it would mean I only have 2 months, May and June, you know, and then July would probably be half a month or it would not be complete. So basically, I didn't meet the requirements for international schools then. And also, it's an it's an examination time in most of the international schools. So kind of I wouldn't get enough contact time to teach. So I did not go for my teaching practice then. I decided to kind of take a risk then, which was again against my parents' wishes. Because yeah, it's at that point, they're like, hey, come on, you're supposed to be completing your degree, or are you missing stuff? Yeah. But yeah, I just took a risk and went and kind of just looked for a job actually at that time in a tuition center, and it kind of made me very conversant with now teaching the international curriculum. What exactly is Cambridge, what is IB? I didn't know about those stuff. I was just kind of hearing about them. And then in January of the following year, when I was in fourth year now, that's when I did my teaching practice. So it was pretty much a gamble for me, but then I did my teaching practice in fourth year at Nairobi Jeffrey Academy. Yeah, and once I went and finished my semesters, and I was able to graduate in 2015 December. So basically, it was a 4 years course from 2011 to 2015.
Interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
it was sort of a gamble that you had to take, but I mean, looks like it worked out for you.
yeah, it was an absolute gamble, but it was totally worth it because I felt like I was making some calculated risks. And yeah, I'm glad that's totally worked out. I mean, it's one of the things I always tell everyone who asks about my career journey. I always make sure I mention that part of my story.
So why did you become a teacher? I mean, out of all the other sort of careers, I mean, you were mentioning before you could become, a doctor or a lawyer or a journalist. Why a teacher?
Okay, yeah, that's interesting because, well, at first, like I said, I actually never thought about being a teacher. But when I actually thought about being a teacher later on, I was thinking about something that I'm really, really interested in. Now, all these other things about being a doctor, being a lawyer, being an engineer, there were things that I kind of realized after high school were things that were just being driven into me. It's not something that I was inspired to do. I was just being programmed for those things. I mean, being in school, having listening to career talks, everything that I could hear was, yeah, you should become an engineer because engineers, blah blah blah, they make a lot of money. You are guaranteed to get a job as soon as you graduate. All that. Yeah, you should become a doctor because doctors. There's a lot of opportunities for doctors. As soon as you graduate, you get jobs. You're on demand and things like that. Yeah, for law for law it was pretty much the same thing, and but of course, there are also those things where I'd be told like, yeah, law is very crowded, so you really really have to be good in it and all those kind of stuff. Yeah, education never occurred to me. So really what happened is when I finished high school and got an A minus, as I mentioned that earlier. I remember applying for a nursing course at Moy University, and I was taken. But then my parents were like, "No, but the fee would be quite high." So I was very disappointed then because, like, this is actually an idea that you guys pushed into me. I never really said I wanted to be a doctor. I never said I wanted to be a medic in any way or practice. But somehow, you have put me in that position. But now that I've gotten an admission letter, you're telling me you can't afford paying for it, and it was kind of very tricky. So I got very disappointed, but then it's in that disappointment that I kind of figured out, anyway, all this stuff that I've actually been doing, I've not been doing it for me. I've been asked about it. It's something that I've been talked into over time. It's like, if I'm meant to do something, what would I do? And like I mentioned earlier, I was really thinking about theater studies and drama and film. That had always been my interest. In high school, I was in drama club. I was one of the very active members, and I remember every single year in high school, I used to quit drama club because I would be told, "Nah, it's distracting you from your academics. You are failing because of that." So I would quit, but then somehow I would just find myself back there. Once things start taking shape and I see, oh, there's a play that is coming up, I would just find myself there. So that was my area of interest. So I thought about that and I was like, yeah, so I would think about doing something in drama and theater. But then around that time, we didn't have any courses in the universities that, yeah, kind of dealt with drama and theater. They didn't exist then. Right now, at least they exist. And you have like Kenyatta University, which has this whole wing right now of drama and theater and film production, which is lovely. Yeah, but then such opportunities were not there. It would mean that I actually had to go maybe to schools like Kenya Institute of Mass Communication, which was, yeah, a mass media, I think, yeah, or communication college then. And looking at, well, there are several colleges like those, yeah, and looking at the entry requirements, they were pretty low. So it was kind of very difficult for me to start convincing my parents that with an A minus, I would be applying for a course where the of entry level, C, or something like that. It was kind of very complicated. But ironically, that was the same thing for education. So I went to revise my course selections, and where I had put like medicine, law, and engineering as my first choices. And I kind of secretly changed that to education after I found out that if I do education in English language and literature, I would have drama and theater. So the whole idea was for me to do something that allows me to do drama and theater. And so I was like, if I end up becoming a teacher, then I would want to teach drama and theater. But before I could teach drama and theater, I had to do an education course in English language and literature and major in literature. It's after majoring in literature that I would have those units to do with theater and drama. And so that is pretty much how I kind of found myself diving into this, teaching profession. But it was until I started doing it that I actually discovered that this is pretty much something that was meant for me. And I have experienced massive growth in it. And I have had the opportunity of as well of working with students in drama and theater. So I do feel that even if I did not eventually end up being a teacher of drama and theater, I actually have qualifications that would allow me to do that. But I have opportunities to work with students in drama and theater, and that means to me it's been a really great win-win because I get English and literature, which was always my strength, and an opportunity to work with students in drama and theater in school productions.
Wow, I mean, it's, a whole sort of story, that you've all given us. I mean, it's quite
Yeah, it's
interesting.
massive. And I speak quite a lot, so in case I'm speaking a lot, just feel free to cut me short. Are
Yeah.
you the boss?
So, are you happy with being a teacher?
Absolutely, absolutely. I would not. I don't think I would have done anything else better. The thing with getting into teaching at first, it's just like one of those things, where you don't know so much just yet. It's something that you're just diving into. I've grown up seeing teachers. My mother was actually a teacher, and she was teaching in different schools. The last school that my mother taught and until she retired was school for the deaf. Yeah, and so I did see my mother really challenge herself to learn sign language. And I found that quite kind of very interesting how a teacher would actually move from, you know, one school to another school that is totally different and have to learn new things and adjust. And those new things are actually kind of very difficult. For example, my mother had to learn sign language and she became really, really good. And I saw her kind of growing in her career. And to me, I don't know how much that inspired me, to be honest. I don't know how much that inspired me because I didn't get any ideas about becoming a teacher from my parents, or rather, they didn't talk to me about the opportunities of being a teacher. So it was until later on that I found out those opportunities, and I naively entered into the teaching profession with the intention of, yeah, drama and theater, having access to that. But while in the profession, a lot of things actually happened to me. Yeah, I found myself moving from a Cambridge program at Nairobi Jeffrey Academy, who also, sorry, I think this is very important for me to mention actually. I mentioned earlier that I did my internship at Nairobi Jeffrey Academy. And something that happened that made me actually realize that I could actually make a really good teacher is that after that internship, I was told, you've done a wonderful job. We would really, really love to keep you. But then I needed to go back to college and complete my courses. Yeah, so they told me, yeah, so in future, once you are done with your uni, if you see an opportunity here and you'd like to consider applying, then feel free to apply. And so when I finished and graduated, I applied when there was an opportunity and found myself at Nairobi Jeffrey again. Now as a teacher, employed and being paid, you know. So the thing is, I think that internship experience really taught me something really important. This is something that I kind of found myself in, but it seems like I'm good at it. I had a really easy time with students at Nairobi Jeffrey, and it appeared like my seniors then appreciated what I was doing with my students and they were happy to keep me. So they later on, employed me. And then from Nairobi Jeffrey, I went to Aga Khan Academy, Nairobi. And from Aga Khan Academy, Nairobi, moved to Ghana to a school called Association International School. And then from Ghana, now moved to Colombia at Colegio Gran Bretaña. And the thing is, I discovered that really being a teacher is not just about stepping in that class and just teaching it. It's a matter of shaping lives, and we have lots of responsibility towards that in the 21st century, despite the fact that yeah, there are lots of changes that have happened to learning that have necessitated that we as teachers also adjust what teaching looks like and really focus on skills that are relevant for the future. But I also discovered there are lots of other opportunities to being a teacher. Like at the moment, as we speak, I am now an international visitor with the National England Association of Schools and Colleges. That basically means I am responsible for moving around some schools and just checking their standards and practices and offering advice and recommendations as well, and learning from wonderful experiences that other schools are doing out there. I ended up being a personal project coordinator in Ghana. I ended up being an extended essay coordinator here in Colombia, and now I'm just moving into a new role as the head of English department. And the thing is, I realized that there are lots and lots of massive, opportunities to being a teacher. Oh yeah, I also work as an examiner for the international baccalaureate, and there are lots of other opportunities that teachers basically move in from regular class to different other opportunities that you still could do while still being a classroom teacher. And so there's massive growth in the field, something that you don't exactly see until you're actually there, and then you discover, oh, there are opportunities here.
Congrats on, I think, being promoted for head of English.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a whole sort of interesting one. We learned a lot, I think, just from that one question.
Hmm.
But I want to move on to something that many people consider when, looking for a career is
Yeah.
pay. Many people consider it. That's why I feel a lot of people are into, medicine, engineering, because there's
Hmm.
good money in the career.
Yeah.
So, on average, as a teacher, what's the pay like?
Well, that's a tricky question. It's one of those things. I know. In Kenya, when things like those happen, if somebody asks you, you say something like, "Hey, Mazee, ni God," it's well. I would say it varies. It varies quite a lot. Yeah. If you think about being a teacher, for example, if you are a teacher in Kenya, trained as a teacher, and then you get your teaching certificate, that is the TSC certificate, and you are practicing in Kenya, teaching in the, say, local curriculums. Eight, well, it's moved from 844 to CBC right now, yeah. So if you're a CBC teacher, then it varies, depending on your job group. So we actually have like teachers who've been trained for ECD, and then we have teachers for like primary school now, and now junior secondary, and senior secondary. So depending on where you are, the salary range varies depending on your job group. So those who come in from from colleges, and not from the university, from the colleges, like they're called P1 teachers, their pay grade might be slightly lower, because they come into a lower job group as compared to those who are graduating from the universities. It's always really a challenge, because there are so many people who do education. There, like, lots of people graduate with an education degree. So getting employed as a teacher for those in the local curriculum always requires you to wait for quite some time. You'd actually look, for example, this year you might actually find that when TSC would be recruiting teachers, probably they're giving priority to teachers who graduated maybe like around in 2022. They might be like right now in 2017, 2018. So those are the teachers being given priority at the moment. Yet we have people who've graduated in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. So it requires you to wait for a very long time before, well, you get a job. And in terms of the payment, I don't know, to be honest. I don't know how confidently I can speak about that, because I'm not quite sure about what teachers earn at that level, because I've never worked in that capacity. The wonderful thing about it is teachers who like working in the, well, most of the teachers who are happy to take those jobs are guaranteed permanent and pensionable salaries. So basically, they'll earn for the rest of their lives until they retire. And that's the difference with those who go for the private sector. Because if you choose that route, and if you pick international school like us, you have to prioritize things like saving and investment for the future, because we don't have pensions. But private sector would most of the private sectors, schools, and international schools for that matter, would pay slightly higher than what teachers in the local curriculum get. In fact, slightly is an understatement. Some of them could be a lot more. It could be like around 4 times more. It could be that much, depending again on the size of the international school that you've gone to. Then if you're to make a move out of the country, it's even better, because it comes with a bigger salary and lots of other perks and benefits, which you don't get as a local teacher. So most of the time, well, from my experience in international schools in Kenya, I would actually be there and see expatriates who are working with us, the foreigners who are working with us, being paid really, really well. You know, so I said, yeah, I would like to be an expert as well, because I'd like to experience that. So, and it comes with lots of benefits. You get schools where you have, your housing is paid for. You have a tax-free income. You have transport being provided. You have international medical insurance. You have free tuition for your kids. So lots of those things, and you can see they kind of cut down on your expenses. So they also help you save a lot, especially considering that you're also having a very good salary.
I think I might be having to change my career path.
Oh yeah, you should consider it. I mean, some time back I wouldn't tell anybody to think about being a teacher, but right now I see the benefits of being a teacher. And like I also said, if you are keen on growing and developing, then you also find other earning opportunities from just being a teacher. So like right now I am a teacher who's earning a salary, but I have like other 3 different opportunities that provide me some extra income.
So I want to move a bit into sort of the future.
Hmm.
AI has grown a lot over the past couple of years. What
Hmm.
do you think of it?
Come again, please.
So AI has grown a lot over the past
Okay.
couple of years,
Mm.
things like ChatGPT, all those kind
Yeah,
of things.
yeah.
What do you think of it?
Well, that's an interesting question. I am very tech. I consider myself as one of the tech savvy teachers, really. And for me, technology is here to stay. Technology is here to transform lots of things. I think there's lots of narratives that come around anytime there is a shift. People become unsettled and uncomfortable, and it's been the same thing for AI. And yeah, it's here to replace teachers. Teachers will no longer be relevant. All right, sorry, just give me a second. I have my little daughter here. Okay, could you go and stay with Dwayne, please? Go stay with Dwayne. I'm coming. Sorry, Rehan, just give me a second.
Yeah, no worries.
Please.
Okay. So, would you fear, I mean, you mentioned about AI could take over your job. Do you fear that it will?
Well, it may not, but I'm not really afraid. you know, at that particular point where I think that what happens has to happens in line with technology. If the world is reaching that point, or it's going towards that point where pretty much all innovation, all decisions, all work processes would be technologically driven, then AI is a very important thing. From where I sit, when I think about it, it's more or less calling for the need for teachers to readjust and reinvent the teaching processes and the curriculum, so that we're not necessarily focused on content as education has been traditionally, rather what skills students actually acquire and how those skills are going to be relevant for the future. If soft skills is what the world is going to need in the next 5 or 10 years and the future, then that's what education is supposed to focus on right now, empowering learners to develop their soft skills, to develop their collaboration, their innovation, and things like that. And any curriculum to me that promotes, or rather enhances that, then I would say it's an opportunity for teachers to improve and up their game as well. And as AI comes in, it, it looks like it's a solution giver right now to so many things, there's still lots and lots of things, that AI still can't do. And there's still lots of opportunities for teachers as well to grow their practice through the use of the same AIs. I use AIs right now to plan for some of my classes. I use AIs to just kind of organize what I want to write in student reports, and it makes things easier as well for for me as a teacher. And I still see massive opportunity as to how AI can be used to enrich learning. So to me, it's more or less like, yeah, AI is here. It's not saying that, yeah, now that I'm here, teachers have no work at all. So, now that I'm here, I can make things a lot easier for everyone, including new teachers. And so it's a matter of seeing how we could work together with technology to improve what needs to be learned for the future. After all, technology is as good as the knowledge that we feed into it. And so teachers are still going to be relevant, and AI is, of course, definitely going to develop. And as it keeps developing, there'll always be new sets of challenges and other things that will need to be fed into it. And education would still continue being relevant, I say, in years to come, until it is no longer relevant.
So I want to ask you about sort of the education career. Is it like competitive? Like, someone is, maybe deciding what they're going to do in uni, and they think of education. Do you think the career is competitive? Do you think it's hard to get into it?
Well, the thing about education is, I would say it totally depends really on one's passion and abilities. That's one of the things that I would say about education. It's not just easy if you're just waking up and saying, yeah, I just want to be a teacher, I want to step into class, because it comes with a whole set of challenges. The things that someone needs to learn and understand. For example, we need to kind of understand about safeguarding and child protection, which is something that is very very crucial. And for example, those might not be things that are strongly emphasized. Well, I can't remember for my case that being strongly emphasized in my teacher training, but those are things that I learned about later on and how important they were. There's the whole idea of behavior management. And if you're coming from a system where like the old days, like we guys, where corporal punishment was the order of the day, that is how behavior was being managed. Behavior and performance, like you get a question wrong and then you get slapped. You're like, okay, so how was that slap gonna help me get that sum right? So there's a lot really to learn in terms of practicing in education, and it calls for lots of open-mindedness, especially if you have to implement education successfully in the 21st century. So is it competitive? Yes, it is competitive. What makes it competitive? It is the different things that one needs to learn and the mind shift that needs to occur to a teacher if they have to be very competitive as 21st century teachers. And so, just like other careers, I would say it is quite competitive. But is there opportunity? Yes, there is opportunity, massive, massive opportunity for growth. It only depends on how one exerts themselves, how much one is ready to learn, acquire, and how much change they're actually ready to imbibe in their mindset so that they could actually be better teachers.
So maybe, in the next 20 years, would we still see Mr. Sami still teaching language and literature?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So currently, I'm pursuing my master's degree, the University of John Moores University in Liverpool, And the thing is, I'm always thinking growth. I'm always thinking about leadership. So where I am thinking about in terms of my career projection is to immerse myself more into leadership, into educational leadership, and into areas where I am able to influence policy making and shape education in the best way possible. I'm thinking about my country as well a lot because, well, that's my motherland, and if there's any way I could help to shape the education future of my country, that's something that I would really want to do because there's lots of talent in my country. And at the moment, I'm not a happy person with the implementation of the CBC. There's lots of improvement. I really appreciate CBC for what it is, but feel like better advice and better policy making could actually have been considered to make Kenya have a seamless transition into this wonderful program. So where I see myself in the next 20 years, as you asked, is probably being in positions where I'm able to influence policy, probably not in class anymore. I'm probably thinking about ministerial positions or in education, or probably just working with international education related organization, just basically to help in policy making and shaping and providing advice in terms of improving access and access to quality education.
So, the final question for today's podcast is,
Mhm.
what's one piece of advice you'd give someone thinking about becoming a teacher?
Well, I would say if anyone is thinking about being a teacher, I would say go for it. I would say if you are thinking it, then it means you can be it, and you can be cool while at it. Gone are the days when I think gone are the days when teachers would be considered, the most uncool people, or uncultured people. It's gone are the days where teachers' job was just to come to class, teach, and go home, or rather teach and whoop students, then go home. It's changed into being persons who have the ability to transform lives, to kind of create bigger impact that live in the lives of students who end up being innovators in the future. And so I would say if anyone is thinking about being a teacher, go for it. Don't think about the incentive, because the incentive comes, really, but it comes with how good you are at what you do. And if you immerse yourself and you're ready to learn and you are ready to accept that this is an ever changing field, perhaps the fastest ever changing field next to technology is education, then you will be very, very much ready to learn. You'll be very open minded to embracing these changes, and you will find yourself being an excellent and lovable teacher who's very impactful to the learners. So if anyone is considering it, then I'd say go for it. But you'd have to be very open minded and ready to embrace the changes that come with it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sammy, for that.
All right.
Thank you very much for coming on, taking some time out of your day. I know right that it's morning, so have a lovely day.
All right.
And
Thank you
thank you very much
very.
for coming on. For the viewers, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and I hope you're able to pick something from us. That is all. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on all our social media pages. From Mr. Sammy and I, we're out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Episode 7. Justice in Motion, Exploring the Life of Lawyers.
Hello and welcome to Professionally Speaking. I'm your host, Rohan Ali Muhammad, and welcome to episode 7, the second last episode of this season. Next episode, we have someone very special that will be joining us, so do look forward to that. But while you're here, I do have someone special with me now. I have a lawyer. I think it's something that, people that are good at public speaking have maybe thought of getting into, has been, pushed into some people. So with me today, I have Zakir Mohammed, a lawyer by profession. Good evening, Zakir. How are you?
Hi, Rehan. Thanks very much for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking time out of your busy day or night, as I should say, to come and do this.
No worries at all. So, tell me, Rehan, how do you want to get started?
So I want to get to know you. Who is Zakir Mohammed?
Sure. I'll give you a very quick history. So, I was born in Nairobi. I've grown up here. I went to the Aga Khan Junior Academy and then the Aga Khan Academy for 13 years of my life. Um, did the IB program, just like you, and loved it. I think the school gave me an excellent foundation to set me up for the future, and I still you know value some of the values that the school has inculcated in me. After that, I went to the UK to the University of Warwick. I studied law, and after that, I chose to come back home just because of the opportunities that I saw at home. And, I not only wanted to make a difference at home, but I wanted to sort of add to the development in the best way that I could. And I'm sure through the questions that you're going to ask me, we'll talk a bit more about this.
Yeah, we will get more into it. So you mentioned about, you went to the University of Warwick, if I'm not mistaken, to study law. How long did that take?
So, the actual degree was a 3 year degree. And you don't really specialize. I mean, you can start taking courses and stuff that you're interested in, but there are, you kind of study everything as a lawyer. You have to get the base foundation. But I did want to specialize in corporate and commercial law, just because that stuff really interested me. And then I moved back to Kenya, and then that's another 2 years of law school in Kenya in order for you to get your license. So I would say overall about 5 years to qualify as a lawyer, maybe 6 years, depending on where you study and how quickly you study.
So do you need just an undergrad, or can you do like a master's and a PhD in law?
Look, the sky is really the ceiling, right? So you can do a master's in law, you can do a PhD in law, you can go on to teach at universities, you can go into research, you can go into theoretical law, you can go into practical law. The scope is really big. If you study in the UK, it's an undergrad degree. If you study in North America, so the US and Canada, it's a postgraduate degree. So you'd kind of do an undergrad in something else you're interested in and then go to law school. So it varies per jurisdiction. In Kenya, if you study here, it's also an undergrad degree, but it's a 4 year course, not a 3 year course.
So why did you become a lawyer? I mean, there's so many professions out there.
Yeah,
I know viewers for the last 6 episodes have seen all these different professions. So why become a lawyer?
right. It's a good question, man. You know, I unfortunately don't have an answer that goes along the lines of it was my calling. It really wasn't. I didn't know I wanted to become a lawyer till I was in DP1. And even then, I still didn't know I wanted to become a lawyer. When I was in law school, I still wasn't sure I wanted to become a lawyer. But I'll tell you why I got into the field of law. It's because I thought that okay, one, it was interesting to learn about the law, but I didn't go into law wanting to become a lawyer. I went into law because I wanted to learn and I wanted to structure my thinking. I wanted to have a very good foundational degree so that I'm setting myself up for the future. So whatever I did after doing my law degree, I always had a good foundation. That was the thinking. Me becoming a lawyer was actually opportunistic. It was because I was offered certain jobs and in certain companies, and I chose to take that. And then, I just grew into my role. So, I mean, it was a very practical approach I took. And yeah, you're right. I could have literally been anything, but I guess this is the logical route I took.
So, I mean, you mentioned you got into it for learning and all. So, are you happy being a lawyer?
Am I happy being a lawyer? It's an interesting question. I'm happy with what I do, and I'm happy that I'm able to use my skills to apply myself in my everyday job, and sort of the impact that my job makes to the greater community. And we can talk a bit about that later on. I'm happy that I became a lawyer because I would say what I'm happy about is what it's the skills it's given me. If I'd become an architect, if I had become a doctor, if I'd become a businessman, if I'd become an economist, whatever it may be, I think I would still be happy, as long as I was applying my skills sort of to one, make an impact, but two, also earn a decent living. So I think that's, it's a good balance. So overall, yeah, I would say I'm happy.
So, you mentioned two things that I want to pick up on. One was skills. What skills, by going to university and studying law, have you gained from, studying law?
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I guess it varies per individual, right? You get out as much as you put in. And what law really taught me was that, one, how do you apply yourself? You've got a set of facts or a set of circumstances in life. How do you take these circumstances and facts and make the most out of it? I'll give you an example. You go to a supermarket, right? And you've got five types of lettuce to buy. How do you process all that information, go to the till and pick, not only the cheapest, but the one that's got the best quality, the one that's packaged in the most sustainable way, the one that's grown in the most sustainable way? So it's applying all these different skill sets and, then getting the outcome of the product. And that's what it is. It just teaches you, real life skills. What it does in specific is, it gives you, as a lawyer, you've got to synthesize a lot of information and come out with an opinion or a determination, to either help your client or further some research or a case or something. And that's really the skill set I wanted to build. The other thing that law really helped me with, and I think maybe helps other people as well with, is structuring your thinking. How do you take, like we said, a big problem and systematically break it down to come up with a potential solution, going forward?
So, another thing you mentioned was a decent living. So, I know this is going to be a bit controversial, but on average, lawyers around the world.
Yeah, look, it varies, right? It varies the economy that you're in. It varies on your skill set. It varies based on the company that you're in. It varies on the type of law you're practicing. Varies on what the market needs. And when I say decent living, I don't just mean making money, right? What I mean is, yes, you earn well, but you also are able to give back to the community. You have a decent work life balance, maybe not the best, but a decent work life balance, so that you're able to also, volunteer, do some pro bono projects. So what constitutes a decent living for me is not just the money, right? It's, having this holistic, I'm able to spend time with my friends, with my family. I'm able to volunteer and do the most with my skill set to help the people around me. But what do lawyers make? Look, it really varies, and, some, people will tell you that when you earn money, it's never enough. So it's being grateful for what you have, that makes it a decent living.
I think that's a very good quote that it's never enough. And I think I can relate that, back to AI.
Right.
So AI has grown a lot over the past couple of years. What's your view on
Yes,
it?
I love ChatGPT, and I love DALI, and I love Quillbot. Let me tell you why. because they make my life easier, right? Chat GPT, if you use it correctly, can, and by the way, I subscribe to the premium Chat GPT because I just, the way it helps me be more efficient with my tasks is incredible. Of course, I'm not going to plug in confidential information, but it helps you understand concepts. You can plug in complicated thoughts into ChatGPT and say, help me synthesize this information. And it does that for you. It breaks it down, helps you structure your thinking so that when you are drafting or when you're giving advice, you're able to also synthesize the information in a similar way. DALI, when I've got crazy ideas and I'm like, all right, how do I get this to work? Write down my ideas. It prints a picture for me, and then it kind of helps me with my mind map. All right, these are all my ideas. This is how they work together. And Quillbot, honestly, Quillbot helps me draft emails in such an efficient way. If I want to say something and then I don't think it's worded well, I plug it into Quillbot. It helps me rephrase my sentences to perhaps be more friendly or be more direct. However I want it to be. So uh, I think I think AI, is an incredible tool. I know your next question is going to be, is it going to make us redundant? And I'll give you an example, right? I do not think it'll make us redundant, but it will if we do not adapt. Let me give you an example. A couple of centuries ago, the printing press was invented. Prior to the printing press, there were people's jobs were scribes. They would write out books, write out the news. Literally everything would be handwritten. When the printing press came, everyone freaked out. These people are going to lose their jobs, and it's going to make the art of handwriting redundant. One, we've seen that's not entirely the case because there's still, we still handwrite a lot. But two, the people who survived are the people who adapted and learned how to use that printing press to make their jobs easier and see how they can adapt with this, what we call a disruptive technology. In my opinion, AI is the same thing, right? If we don't learn how to adapt, we will be left behind. But if we try to stay ahead of the knowledge curve with AI and make use of it, then our jobs are not going to be redundant because nothing can replace, the quality of human thinking. These are all driven by human thoughts. But if we're not able to understand them, that's when it becomes risky. So I hope I answered that preempted question.
Well, I think you answered a question that was not on the list, but I mean,
Okay.
you gave your opinion and all, and I mean, it's a good thought. I know, the other people on the show have also said similar things. They use
Okay.
it for make their life easier. So, do you fear that AI could take over your job?
I fear that I will not keep up fast enough to understand AI to make use of it. That's my fear. I think jobs and careers are fluid. You know, Myself, I've had, a couple of career changes in my short career span. Still in law, but, focusing on different areas, doing different things. And I think we constantly have to adapt. And my fear is if I get complacent and I'm not able to learn fast enough and adapt, then you get left behind. Then, people say, okay, yes, the culprit is AI, but the culprit really is us. We're not keeping ourselves, educated fast enough.
So, I mean, this AI chat is, I think it's taken the world by storm, and I mean,
Yeah.
we can go on for this for hours, you know. So, I want to come back to, now is, becoming a lawyer competitive,
Yeah. Look, in this part of the world, in Kenya, it's extremely competitive. We're seeing the newspaper headlines the past week talking about youth unemployment being extremely high. And these are not people who are not educated, right? These are people who are very well educated. They're all lawyers and they're not finding jobs. In addition to that, there's been a couple of reports by the agencies like World Bank, the UN, all stating that by 2040, Africa's working population is going to be the largest in the world. The problem now is if you have this large working population, but not enough jobs, that's when your unemployment rates get high and naturally very competitive. You also have people living longer now and working longer in their careers. So, they're not freeing up those spots. So, the only way to do this is to ensure sustainable development. So, I know I'm not just talking about law here, I'm talking about just careers in general. And it applies to the legal system. And things like disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence don't help that. They just make that process even harder. So it is very competitive today, and it is going to continue to be competitive. But my advice to people coming in, and I'm still very, very early on in my career as well, is we need to continue upskilling. How do you find a niche that you are, one, passionate about, and two, that adds value in people's lives, and continue educating yourself on that so that you don't get left behind the knowledge curve? It's the only way, honestly, to stay ahead of it, because there's brilliant people coming into the workforce, and it just adds that pressure.
So how do you think we can, make sort of the career less competitive? I mean, keep it sustainable, so for my generation, when they want to become lawyers, there's space for them. How do you think we can do that?
Look, I think there's a couple of things, right? The first is, as a profession, we need to be understanding of new people coming in. We need to mentor people coming in, because we also don't want our profession to die out, right? So what we can do is foster a learning environment, and look out for each other so that we're supporting each other. So instead of trying to, you know I mean, competition is good because it keeps the quality up, but it's not good when it becomes hostile. So it's keeping that brotherhood within the fraternity, as they would say, right? But I also think it's supporting young people. A lot of young people are actually turning away from being lawyers because they don't see law as a career of the future. While that might be true to a certain extent, you will always need lawyers. You're always going to need people to help regulate, help give advice, help create structures for society to function and be governed in the right way. You're always going to have human relations, you're always going to have contracts, you're always going to have technologies coming about which need to be regulated. And that's the role of a lawyer. It's to really help people navigate these complex legal landscapes. And they are getting increasingly complex, with AI, with machine learning, with robotics, with the advancement of medical care, and we're seeing in the world with the advancement of this civic society, the movement of the Black Lives Matter movement, with the Me Too movement, with the LGBTQIA plus movement. These are complicated landscapes that people need help navigating, and they're also ethical landscapes that they need help navigating. And so there'll always be a place for a lawyer to be there. We just need to find a way to adapt to the ever-changing world so that we stay relevant. So that's my advice I would give to somebody who's trying to come in.
I mean, that's, interesting. I mean, you've covered up a whole lot of area, I think it's something that lawyers are not going to go out anytime soon. You know, I was told that, pick a career path that's not going to go out anytime soon, become a lawyer,
Yeah.
because AI is not going to, become a lawyer for you. So
Can
would
can
you
I can
say,
I just say something interesting to you? Or just respond to your interesting comment. I think, and to anyone who's listening to this podcast, I think that whatever career you choose, you shouldn't be limited by the confines of that career. I am a lawyer. I started off my career in a private equity firm. I moved to a corporate law firm with all the other lawyers, and I moved out of that recently back into a consulting and private equity firm. So I'm one of four lawyers on the team, but I have, a team of, 20 people around me who have different backgrounds, economists, people who've done finance, and engineers. So the conventional careers that we know might not be there. So don't let the career you choose limit your thinking. I have friends who are lawyers, who are sports lawyers. They're doing stuff in the sports space. I have friends who are lawyers who are in the media space, who are singing and producing music, right? So whatever career you choose, my advice would be choose it to learn, but choose the degree, choose the course to learn, but don't let it limit your possibilities, because you can be as creative as you want in the career. And nowadays, career lines are blurred.
I mean, I've even seen like, doctors working at airports, so I think those career lines, as you said, are blurred now. It's not that lawyers, has to sit in an office and then go to court and then,
Exactly.
you
Exactly.
know,
And by the way, I don't go to court at all. I've been to court twice in my life. So there you go.
yeah. So do you think there is space for more people to join, the law career?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there will always be space because we create that space. I think, people who want to join the career should think about what's their unique offering to this profession. Let's create that space. I have the opinion that we should not be trying to all, take a small cut off the same pie. We should be making the pie bigger so that we all can have enough from that pie. And that's what I would say.
I mean, I'm one person that, loves to give, if I'm saying something, I love to give an example of the complete opposite thing. And I think
Right.
that's interesting how you mentioned the pie. So, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with you. Other professions, for the new generation are coming in. And yeah, I mean, it's very sort of interesting, like how we need to make space because,
Yeah,
in the next 30 years, job sustainability, like how you said, Africa is becoming one of the most biggest employment areas in the world.
that's right. Yes.
So we do need to make that space, and that space needs to start up from now. So we don't
Totally
have
agree with you.
jobs. So
I totally agree with you.
our last question for today: what's one piece of advice you would give someone thinking about becoming a lawyer?
Okay. It's good. It's good question, because I'm thinking, what would I tell myself, my younger self 10 years ago when I was just leaving high school, starting off my law degree? And I think I would say, one, there is no shortcut to hard work. There's going to be long nights, many of them for many, many, many years. I'm talking about decades. There's no shortcut to hard work. There is no shortcut to success. It's a long road, not only in law, but in any career, but I'm specifically in law. Two, be focused. Know where you want to go. You know, have a game plan. The game plan can change, no problem. But make sure you have a game plan so that you know where you're walking or running towards. It's not just, in any direction. Three, I would say know your values, right? You're going to be tested in life. Have a foundational values that you live by. It's very important how you talk to people, how you treat people, what work you take on, how you advise clients. It's integrity is everything in this profession. And four, I would say stay true to yourself. You know yourself better than anyone else, right? Success takes different forms. Yes, maybe different lawyers around you are doing different things, or maybe they're making more money, or maybe they're in a bigger firm. But that doesn't determine success. You determine your own success. And, because it's a long journey, it's very important to keep reminding ourselves that, hey, this is where I want to go. But more importantly, look where I've come from. And that is success in itself. That's my final piece of advice I would share.
I think we got 4 or 5 advices from one advice.
I should charge you for my time now, like a good lawyer.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you, Zakir, for taking time out of your busy day slash night to come and do this. To the viewers, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and thank you for all the support. Do follow us on all our social medias at Professionally Speaking. Our next episode is going to be a memorable one. It is going to be the finale episode. So do look forward to that. From me and Zakir, we are out. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
All the best. See you later.
Episode 8. Scrolling Success, Digital Influencers Unveiled.
Hello and welcome to Professionally Speaking. For the last episode of this season, I'm your host Rahan Ali Muhammad. Just a quick one before we start. I would like to thank everyone for watching these last 7 episodes. I know this is going to be the finale, the 8th episode, and thank you very much to all the guests that have come on, taken their time. I really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the last episode of the season. So with me today, I have Radhika, who's a social media influencer, and something I feel that many people in my generation and a few generations just before me have wanted to get into. Good morning, Radhika. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Thank you so much for hosting me. Yeah, sorry, I can hear a little bit of echo.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Is my audio okay?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, great.
So, Radhika is a social media influencer. I'm sure you've probably seen her on Instagram or TikTok. A lawyer by profession. So she makes videos about Kenya, and I mean, I've watched a few of her videos. Really interesting. So do check out on Instagram. It's at Radhika Xcore, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
Radhika, can you give us an introduction about yourself? Why did you get into social media influencing?
Why? I don't think there was a reason why particularly. I think I started posting online in 2017-ish, where influencers were just starting to blow up. There were a lot of YouTube influencers, a little bit of Instagram influencers, and almost no TikTok influencers. So it kind of just happened by accident. I started posting on TikTok in December 2019. And I got lucky because no one was on TikTok at that time, and I kind of just got there before anyone else, and then kind of not blew up, but slowly but surely grew an audience.
So I want to move into, how long did it take for it to sort of start up? Because I mean, I know, getting content and recording it and editing it does take a while. And of course, growing that fan base does take a while. So how long roughly could you say it took to become a social media influencer?
How long did it take? So I think I started at 0 followers in December 2019. And now it is it's August 2023, and I have 100,000 followers, or I actually have 99,000 followers. So it's taken ages. I mean, it's like 3 to 4 years to grow this big. But I think in the start, it was quite quick. So I think I hit 40K within the first 4 or 5 months. But then after that, it was really slow. I also, I got busy. I started my law career. I focused more on school than on social media. So my growth on social media really kind of slowed down. Yeah,
So,
but then I think halfway through my social media career, I also started a radio job. So I was on radio for a bit. So I think that also helped kind of bolster my social media presence.
Interesting. Did you maybe, I mean, on the last couple of episodes, people have seen that, we went into the education. Do you need maybe, a degree or something to get into, becoming a social media influencer?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So, as in the couple of episodes before, we've talked about education and all. Do you need any, as per say, a degree in social media to become a social media influencer, or can anyone become a social media influencer?
Okay, you obviously don't need an education to become a social media influencer, but it's a tough job because one day you're it and the next day you're not. So while it's a great job to have and it doesn't have any barriers to entry, your social media fame also doesn't last forever, right? So that's why I just want to say that first. That's why I decided to focus on my legal career as opposed to social media, because I know it has longevity and people can be lawyers for 25, 30, 40 years. More than that, even 50, 60 years, you have people who are lawyers, but you will rarely ever see someone who is celebrated online or in traditional media who's past that 20-year mark. I mean, that's even an achievement in itself. But usually, you're hot, you're the hot news for probably 5 or 6 years, and then, there's someone else. There's someone younger, maybe who looks better than you, who does it better than you. So yeah.
So why did you get into social media? I mean, you could have done. There's so much out there. And why take on a hobby as social media?
So I've always been really inclined towards social media, sharing online, making things, making videos, whether it's for myself, just filming, taking photos. It was always just a hobby, and I never set out to make it an income source. I was just posting. So it kind of happened by mistake. But yeah, I was always creatively inclined. So that's kind of where it started. Yeah. And then I think I also found a good niche because I do Kenyan content specifically. Then there's not too much competition in that field. So I do Kenyan content, and then I'm also of Indian ethnicity. So I had a really good kind of niche where I fit in really well and people were interested. So that obviously externally motivated me to keep on going.
So this is just a quick one for the viewers. If you watch the episode with Ali Jawad, when he started electric tuk-tuks, he also focused on a niche. So there's someone that we got on earlier in the season where he started an electric tuk-tuk business in Mombasa, where he realized that there's a niche where we're going electric, so why not create an electric tuk-tuk?
No, that's amazing, and it's always about kind of finding that niche. It's also good to generally be good at a wide range of things, but that niche really helps you, whether it's on social media, in the tuk-tuk business, even in my legal career. You see people who kind of niche down do really well.
Yeah. So are you happy being a social media influencer? I know there's a lot of controversy, with some people, posting things. So are you happy, with what you're doing as a social media influencer?
It's difficult because I think I was happier when I was a bit younger. When I was, 18, 19, 20, you don't have any consequences. You post online, it's all fun and games. I mean, your peers and your classmates may also feel like that, like there's no consequences to posting on social media and it's all fun, it's all a joke. But I think of recent, as I've started my professional career, I see that there are a lot of consequences to what you post online. So whether it's your boss seeing it, or a client seeing it, or a competitor seeing it, they judge you for what you post online. So like for example, this podcast, right? I have braids in and it's chilled. I don't look like a lawyer, and if someone maybe who works with me, or who wants me to work for them as a lawyer, if they saw this, they start to question, oh, is she actually a serious person? Can she actually be a lawyer? So I think in the recent past, no, I haven't been happy with it because I'm struggling with finding a balance of having a really good professional outlook while still being myself and having fun on social media. But right now, I think there's a lot of friction between those two things.
Yeah, I think many social media influencers will say that, whatever, especially food content creators, they always have to, look professional, and I mean, I think that's also led to, some people maybe, faking reviews just so there's that following base, there's that fan base that they get. So, I mean, do you think that, being a social media influencer, is it a career that can be, can sustain, your living, your day-to-day living?
Hmm. It can, only if obviously in the start it's going to be difficult because you're not going to have that following, you don't have the contacts. I would say that yes, it has supplemented my income to a point where I didn't think it could. But because I focus on my legal career, I don't invest enough time into my social media for it to actually bear fruit. So as of now, it is not my main source of income. But I think if anyone worked hard enough, it could be. But then it's not a stable source of income. It's a marketing job. So those are all things you need to keep in mind. We also live in Kenya, which has, if you're on YouTube, it has a really low CPM. So if you're making Kenyan content for Kenyan viewers, you're not earning as much as a US YouTuber. So there are a lot of factors to consider. It's probably not the most stable source of income, but it is definitely possible for it to be an income source.
So, I want to go into, on average, as maybe a Kenyan influencer, how much do you make on average?
I don't think I can answer that, right? Because I don't have a campaign every month, for example. But
Yeah,
maybe I can give you like a range, right? And
yeah.
then if someone wants to do the math, they can kind of figure it out. So I think the lowest I would charge for a post would be like for a small business. If a small business approached me, I would charge them like 1,000 shillings for a story post, which takes you, probably 5 or 6 seconds. So when you look at it per hour basis, it's quite high. So that's the lowest I charge. And then for videos, it can go up to like 30,000 for a video. But then it depends. You can be really lucky and get a brand that's like, hey, I want 3 videos a month. And then, you're balling for that month. But then there'll be 6 months where you only get one person who wants one story. So yeah, I'm not balling from it.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of variation in, how it works, and I think that's with, mainly every business, mainly when starting out, of course. Like, you look at businesses when they start out, it's not like, every month they are, selling the top products and all.
Yeah, but I mean, there are certain influencers in Kenya who are influencers full time, and I know they do make a good living.
Okay, so whoever would like to, become an influencer, just spend a lot of time. As we can tell, the money looks like it's really good.
You can never know, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
never
also
know
true.
the what's in the background.
That's also true. So, I mean, I want to move on to, the future, AI. How do you use AI, What's your view on it?
For social media,
So, yeah, social media, day-to-day
um,
use, what's your view on it?
I don't really use it as a everyday tool. I use it sometimes if I want a caption or for ideas. I don't use it to make my content. I use it mostly to trigger my brain to be like, oh wait, this is a good thing to think about. So it's more like when you have creative block, it can really trigger you. I used it quite a bit when I was on radio because on radio we had to think of topics every day, and the human mind can't really do that. So I used to use it then quite a lot, or I used to use it for captions for social media quite a lot. But yeah, I don't think I use it every day because I like that human touch, which AI can't give you, and that's what really helps build an audience, right? Having that human touch. AI is also not very Kenyanized, so it doesn't have context of certain Kenya things. So, for example, I had asked it one day. I used to have a series where I used to talk about like facts about Kenya, like historical facts. So I asked ChatGPT to give me some, and a lot of them were wrong. So it said that Kenya is one of the only countries to have a purple street light, like the traffic lights. And I was thinking, we definitely don't have a purple light on the traffic light. We barely even have working traffic lights. So ChatGPT totally made this up. So yeah, I don't really use it.
So, do you think, as someone that's coming up as a social media influencer, do you think they could use ChatGPT and other AI tools, to use or to make videos and posts on Instagram and TikTok?
No, I think to be a social media like influencer or build an audience, you either have it in you or you don't. And I don't think AI could help you as much. I'm sure there's some outliers who AI is doing wonders for them, but I think for majority of people, you either have it or you don't.
So, okay, well, I mean, I've seen, some like places where, AI will make the video for you, like the script for you, it'll do the voiceover for you, do basically everything for you. All you need to do is just, press it and upload it on Instagram and, you have views. Do you think that could maybe work?
No, it's boring, right? AI is pulling generic information, right? And it's using generic stock footage. Your brain is likely to just scroll past that. Also, our brains are going to start noticing what's AI generated, right? And is going to start, scrolling past it and filtering it out. The only place I would say I would think AI would really help is maybe like AI generated images. So some people may not be comfortable talking on social media. So they might want to have an AI voice, or they might want to have an AI video because they're not comfortable with their face online. That's something I also contemplated, because I was like, I don't feel comfortable with my clients, my coworkers seeing my social media things. So maybe I should do an AI generated image. I haven't got there yet, but that could be one of the ways you could implement AI.
Okay, so I want to ask about, the career as a social media influencer. Is it competitive to get into, like, I mean, right now you're at almost around 100,000 followers. Is it competitive?
It's super competitive. It's extremely competitive, because you're competing with, number one, your age group, people in Kenya, and people abroad, right? So when you're starting a traditional career, so for example, I'm a lawyer, I'm only competing with people in Kenya who have studied law. And that's a lot of people. It's like 2,000 people a year. But then when you're on the internet and you're a social media influencer, there's no boundary of the internet. You are competing with, huge YouTube stars and huge TikTok stars in America for that few seconds of time that people have on their phone. So yeah, the competition is insane. And also, the people who dedicate more time obviously have more views. The people who are willing to do certain things, whether it's just to win in the short term or do controversial things, are likely to pass you in the short term. And if you're more of a long-term player, you obviously get you start comparing yourself. You don't do as well as them. You think, how do I compete with them as well? So for me, I know that I'm competing with people who are doing social media as their job, and they post 3 videos a day. But I only post maybe 3 videos a month. So yeah, the competition is crazy. I think even right now I'm losing followers on TikTok instead of gaining.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite competitive. I mean, we watch videos almost every day. I mean, I myself, first thing when I do when I wake up is check Instagram, which I know many people are going to say that's not good, but
I mean, if it
yeah,
helps you
so
wake up, it helps you wake up. I do that too. But I think maybe it's important for you and your classmates to realize that what you see on social media is not a reflection of what life actually is. And because you're so young, it might seem glorious to become this social media influencer, but go for it. Do it in a respectful way, in a way that your future self will be proud of you, a way in which you're not embarrassed of it later on. Yeah, because I can imagine a lot of young people being pushed to do controversial things or say controversial things just to get the 5 minutes of clout.
Yeah. So you're talking about, the career being competitive. Do you think that causes stress among, social media influencers?
It depends who you are, right? If your whole world is the external validation you get from the likes and comments and views, then yes, it can be stressful. But if you look further than that and you say, oh, this is like, for me, the way I view my social media, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm in the red, I'm losing followers, but I love it and I'm still going to post whether I'm losing or gaining. I'm doing it because I like making the item or making the content, not really the external validation that comes from it. It can be stressful though. I will say that this personally affects me when you get a lot of hate. So I get a lot of racist messages because, my audience, not my audience, but maybe some people who come across my videos don't understand why I'm brown and I'm living in Africa. So I get a lot of like racist comments and things like that. That is extremely stressful.
Yeah, and I think it's something that, as the future sort of generation, we need to sort of cut out that racism or, those hurtful messages. That because, then again, it starts amongst problems within creators,
Yeah, definitely. And then yeah, that's really stressful. It takes a toll on your mental health for sure when you're just being hated on, especially if it's something you can't change. Yeah.
So do you think is there space for more people to join into the career?
Yeah, there definitely is. It's harder, obviously, when it's a platform that is already existing. But I think on TikTok, yeah, for sure. There's always space. Maybe not on
Do you
Instagram. I
think
can't imagine myself doing there.
so? The final question for today's episode: what's one piece of advice you'd give someone thinking of becoming a social media influencer?
Ooh, I want to be careful because I feel like, you're very young and so are your classmates. So it's fun, but again, just, do it respectfully in a way that you are proud of the work you produce. And I would say do it because you like producing and not because you like the clout that comes with it, because the clout comes and then it goes. It's unstable, right? And also, you can do it as a hobby. You don't have to be a social media influencer, right? If you like posting and you have 50 followers and you want to post as if you're an influencer and do reviews, just do it. You don't have to have this title of I am a social media influencer and I post reviews. You can do it on a small scale. You can do it as a hobby. It doesn't have to be a career. Like for me, it's not my career, right? It is my hobby whether I make money from it or not. So that's what I would say. It's not the be all end all if you are or if you aren't a social media influencer. And it looks great and it looks prestigious, but there are a lot more things you can do that are equally as prestigious.
All right, that concludes today's episode and our last episode of this season. I'd like to thank again Radhika I'd like to thank you for coming on, taking some time out of your day to do this.
Thank you so much for having me. And, I'm so glad that your school is doing something that's out of the box and doing this podcast thing. So, congratulations to your school. I'm sure your teacher is super dope for allowing you to do this. And thank you for having me. And sorry I was late.
No worries, no worries. And I would also like to thank everyone else that took time out of their day to help me make this come true. We will be having one last episode, which is going to be a marathon of all the episodes combined in one. So do look forward to that. Other than that, from me, that is out. Radhika, any last words?
See you later, and thank you for having me.
Alright, do make sure to check her out on Instagram and TikTok at Radhika X Core. Thank you so much for watching, and we're out.